just mic'd up with Mikie Mahtook. Got the boys in. I got Lloyd. We got Mitch. We got Jackie boy.
He tried to jump up and he might have knocked it in.
Good timing. Let's go. What a start to the Monday. I mean, I'm from Lafayette. My boys would come in, say,
oh, God. So me and Joe on the ground. I got Joe in the headlock. And he's sitting there. Helmet. He's punching me in the stomach, like steady punching me.
Here, and as everyone's sitting around, who here thinks Ochinko can practice today after having 5 full beers? And he goes, Chad Jones, right? Chad's been with the team 6 minutes. For 7 minutes, right? Chad's like, no, man, I don't think Ochinko can practice today. And I was like, I look back, I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude. I fucking saw you there. You were more fucked up than me.
Be on the Spirit plane had some issues. I think she was sleep farting.
You heard her or you just thought it was her?
I sat right next to her. I smelled it.
Whoa. What was that?
Time to start the show. Why would I have that?
You had the circus or something.
6:03, I'm late. Like, I don't even know what I'd be doing.
Now, when you do go to spring training, are you going to bring your chinchilla and your turtle? My dad tell you about that?
The SEC is, God, they hate fat people. I mean, I get crushed for that. You know what I mean? And it's like, come on, man.
Hey, just the South, bro. You got a bunch of food down here. Like they're all fatter than I
am. Players, look at Lloyd.
You know what, Lloyd?
I mean, you're looking for a recruiting coordinator, coach. I'm here.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll piss my pants right now.
No way.
We're wearing gray pants, long gray pants. He goes, I'll piss my pants right now. Hello. Welcome back to Mik'd Up. Today is Monday. Huh?
Hello.
Welcome back to Mik'd Up. Today is Monday, August 14th. We have a huge show for you today. We are excited. Football, not all the way back, but pretty back. I mean, it's pretty close to being back. Pretty back. I mean, every single team played their preseason games this weekend, and a lot of good things. A lot of great things from the Saints. Seems like the Saints are going to be Super Bowl bound. Oh. So it looks like. 1 quarter of play with their starters, it looks like they were all doing really good things on the football field. Very exciting things on the football field. Looks like Derek Carr's been here for a lot longer than he has. We have Fletcher Mackel coming on the show around 6:40 via video call. He's going to give us all of the answers that we need. We're going to talk about the game, what he saw, what he's hearing, all of the good positive things that are the New Orleans Saints. Preseason top 5 came out in college football. LSU comes in at 5. I almost said 5th. Comes in at 5. I think that's the second preseason poll they came in at in the top 5. That looks pretty standard. Florida State, LSU's first opponent, comes in at number 8. So they got a top 10 matchup. First game of the season, week 1 in Orlando on September 3rd. That is 20 days away from now. So that is right around the corner. NFL football obviously is starting to heat up. You're seeing these starters play. College football is about to start heating up. Week 0 happens in 2 weeks. Week 1 happens in 20 days or 18 days, I guess, because, some of them are going to start that Thursday and then go until Sunday. Former LSU Tiger, now current New Orleans Saint, Darrel Williams just signs with New Orleans. Obviously, Kendre Miller goes down with what looked to be a very bad knee injury. Turns out to be just a knee sprain. Dodged disaster right there. So that is good news for the Saints that it's not going to be a long-term injury. Also good news for Darrel Williams for signing with the Saints. That's the second guy the Saints have signed from LSU in the last week or so. They had John Trey Kirkland signed last week. Looks like they're not biased towards LSU anymore.
Is that a Sean Payton thing?
Maybe so. It looks like it. Derek Carr looked amazing. Jameis Winston looked amazing.
Alvin Kamara.
Alvin Kamara looked great. O.T. Perry looked awesome. That's a 6-rounder. We're going to ask all these. We're going to talk about all of this with Fletcher. You had excuse me. I got a little
Indigestion?
No, not indigestion. Just a little
reflux.
I don't know what happened there.
Little weekend.
Little weekend. Big weekend. We're going to get into the weekend. We'll run through the Heineken headlines first before we really get into the weekend. Other NFL news: Ezekial Elliot signs with the New England Patriots, 1-year deal. Running back market's not very good. Jonathan Taylor obviously still going through his stuff. Ezekiel Elliott signs a 1-year deal right now. I don't really know what the running back position is going to look like. Saints signed Darrel Williams. So I think they are fine now. Obviously, they have some injuries. But the Saints are doing everything necessary for them to make a run. I know everybody thinks that the division is not going to be very good. It looks like that on paper. I wouldn't be so sure about that. I think teams are going to be better than you expect.
It's NFL football, man.
Yeah, I think Carolina Panthers are going to be a lot better than people anticipate them being. I think people are starting to kind of hype them up because Bryce Young looked pretty solid. Looked like he kind of had an understanding of the NFL game. He didn't do anything crazy. He had one touchdown pass that was for negative yards passing in the air. He threw it behind the line of scrimmage on a screen that was taken 62 yards to the house. So that's great for them. But their defense is going to be real. They're going to.
It goes down as a run, too, by the way.
Did it count as a run?
I mean, if you're throwing it backwards, yeah.
Well, I think that he threw it in front of the line, but behind the receiver, I don't know. I think they count as a pass.
I saw his stats, and I don't remember seeing that many yards on it, so it might have been counted.
Maybe it counted as a run. Either way.
Yeah.
Big play. And he looked very calm. He kind of looked like Bryce Young of college, where nothing really seemed like it sped up on him. Their defense is going to be really good. So I wouldn't be so sure just to say, automatically Saints are going to be the favorite. I think they are the favorite, but they're going to have to go out there and win. We talked about their schedule. They have a lot of road games to start the season. They end the season with very home-heavy schedule. And it looks like there's a lot of winnable games on their 2023 schedule. So it's a lot of optimism going into the season. A lot of optimism going into the season. A lot of optimism with the LSU Tigers, too. Because word on the street is the offense looks pretty freaking good, and the defensive line maybe look even better, right? So you had the offensive linemen come out in interviews recently and talk about how they're going up against a defensive line that they believe. Now, listen, I get it. You're biased towards your guys. You're playing against your team. They are super talented. But he comes out and he says that our defensive line he thinks is the best in the country. So the offensive line going up against the best defensive line in the country only makes the offensive line better, and they don't feel like there's a defensive line that they aren't going to be able to handle. Those bold words, especially in college football, when people love to take quotes and turn them into motivation. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it is a good sign for LSU that their defensive line is, one, deep, and two, very talented. That is giving our offensive line some fits, and our offensive line are handling pretty well. So a lot of things to go. LSU is about 10 days into practice, right? Isn't it day 10? I feel like the other day we were just talking about day 4. We're already at day 10. It's got to be miserable to practice right now.
Day 8.
Day 8.
Day 8, and they had an off day on.
So today's day 9, or today was day 8.
Today is day 8.
Today is day 8.
Yes.
Okay, that's how that works. 8 comes before 9.
Usually.
Got it. Okay, got it.
You should know. Big 8 guy.
Day 9. Well, I never got to 9, obviously. That's why I got to 8. 8 was my number.
That was it.
That was it. It's got to be miserable right now, huh?
Yeah, it is. I got to. What time does practice start? 7 o'clock? Please tell me.
They usually go outside around 10.
Ooh, that's right. That's right when you go from the humidity of Louisiana to the Arizona heat, and then you go back to the Louisiana heat when it gets a little darker. So you got dewy grounds in the morning where there's humidity and there's some water, moisture. Then you go Then you go through like a 4-hour period where it feels like you're in the desert, where it's dry, super hot. And you get to be about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. All of a sudden, you start feeling that humidity happen again. You're like, okay, I don't know where the hell that I am right now, and it's not fun. I do not like it. You come home, you walk outside to go get the mail or the trash can or do something. By the time you come back inside, you're drenched, much less play on the field on turf that's hotter in football pads and helmets, even though they have the helmet with the air conditioning thing in there now. That is pretty cool. A little nifty. They got a little fan in there. But it's got to be brutal, huh, Jay? You're the only one that's going through it through college. I only did it through high school.
Yeah, it's not
Which
good.
doesn't look anything.
Look, he's going through it right now. He's just thinking about it.
I'm getting hot flashes just thinking about it. It's not good. It's not where you, especially at this point, like you said, you're 10 days into it. You're leaning on the same people every day. It's hot as hell. Yeah, it's you kind of going through it a little bit right now. And once, like you said, they're gonna have at least another week this week before they really get into start doing some game prep. So it really does feel like Groundhog's Day right now, and you're just going through the same thing over and over, pushing the same pace, pushing against the same people, running the same plays, seeing the same defenses, and it's a lot right now.
That's why you fight.
Do they start doing game prep next week?
Or at least
about
for sure,
2
at
weeks,
least 2
about
weeks.
2 weeks before.
I mean, sometimes I think you could probably start about 3 weeks, but it's very little stuff you'll do, and it's probably only maybe a couple periods like early in the practice at that point. I would say for the first game, though, for sure, about 2 weeks out is a lot of what you're going to be doing is a lot of game prep at that point. So
now, do you know, like, when do the coaches feel like they know when, okay, the team's set, this is what I think our starters are going to be for week one? Like, are they going to have position battles up until that game week, or do you think that they're going to pretty much know within 10 days or so of whenever they start install for that first week?
There might be a couple position battles that may go kind of up until game week, but those what is it? They're probably gonna run maybe 3. I'm not sure if they'll all be open to public or somewhat open to public, but they're probably gonna run about 3 game-like scrimmages. Those scrimmages are where they kind of start figuring out, like, this is who's gonna be the guy in this position and who starts probably getting more reps and whatnot. Because those are the times where they, basically coaches get off the field. You are basically evaluated for everything that you're doing, and you kind of get to see who knows what they're doing, who's doing the right thing, who's playing fast, who's doing those things, and that kind of gives you a feel for who's going to be going where.
I think that, they pretty much know offensively, I think, who's going to be their starters, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, I think we've kind of talked about this throughout the year, like kind of leading up and previewing camp. It really feels like you're solidified everywhere but in the DB room. That's where it feels like.
Yeah, I think there's some spots in the linebackers positions, like depth wise, where who's going to get in that rotation. I think that's there. I think now the secondary outside of just the cornerbacks, because you have Greg Brooks has been dealing with some vertigo stuff apparently, which vertigo ain't no joke, bro. That's a tough thing. If you don't know what vertigo is, it is like an inner ear type thing that makes you feel like you're spinning. It makes almost like you're drunk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, it's hard to stop, and like it's just not good. Yeah. I've met people that have gone through vertigo, and it's not fun.
The secondary one that's the one that's interesting to me, man. It's not like the D-line where you're used to saying, hey, we need 8 to 9 guys. And even if you, got a guy, you expect him to be off the field every now and then. And it's not often you see 3 down, 4 down, guys that literally play 90% of the snaps on the defensive line. Those guys kind of get rotated in and out a little bit, right? So knowing that they have a lot of depth, especially at the corner position, but still not knowing who's going to start is weird. It's that's not what you're used to seeing right there, because you don't usually see those guys rotating in and out as much. So
no doubt. And I think you mentioned it last week. I think it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve for some of those DBs. I think they're going to make some plays, but I also think they're going to have some trouble, have some difficulty. They're going to have some bumps and bruises, right? Stuff's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that, fortunately for LSU, they have an offense that's experienced, that is going to be able to score some points and move the football and kind of give their defense some time to develop and kind of just come into their own. They say Sage Ryan looks really good in that nickel position. It looks like they say he's taking that next step. Hopefully that is going to come to it's going to be evident on the field because he is, I think, a big necessity. You need somebody that you can plug in that position that you know is going to be able to cover guys because nowadays, I mean, that nickel position sucks.
How big is he?
How big is he? Because he's a tweener. He's not big enough for a linebacker and almost too big for a DB, right?
Who?
Sage Ryan.
Yeah, that's kind of been the issue with Sage is you can't – LSU has these guys every now and then. It's almost like a Jacoby Stevens scenario who's also on the coaching staff now.
Yep.
Yeah, you saw him graduate also.
Right.
But it's one of those guys where – always. Graduate champions. But almost like Devontae Lee that also played like wide receiver. They moved him to defensive end. They moved him to linebacker. Like LSU has these tweener athletes where it feels like they're too athletic to not be on the field, but you also don't have a position. And Sage Ryan had kind of – I've been saying this for like the majority of the year for Sage because it feels like almost Coach O put him behind the 8 ball with how much he talked about him, 5-star freshman, like the whole deal. And he kept mentioning him every offseason going up to Sage Ryan's going to play, and then it became Sage Ryan's available, and everybody wanted to see him play, but he was hurt. And it feels like he's been talked about almost to the point where people are kind of tired of hearing about him. And it's almost like put up or shut up for Sage, and it's not really fair to him. But I do feel like he's going to be on the field, whether it be in that nickel role or as a safety. He just needs to pick a position at this point.
See, that scares me. I'm going to be honest with you. That scares me in the sense of the bigger nickel in today's football with so much motion, so much movement, and so much speed and space being played, the bigger guy in that situation scares me because you're asked to cover smaller type guys who are shiftier, who can move like that. And I don't know. I don't. That's why I asked the question how big he is because I don't know how much that fits.
5'11",
202. Okay.
202.
Well,
That's
202.
that's
you
kind
can
of
play.
running back
No,
size right there. But
no, you can play there. He'd be fine. If he can move, he'd be fine. I mean, obviously.
I think they talked about last year, like that one of his big issues at playing the cornerback position wasn't necessarily the speed. It was more about him like having tight hips, like not being able
That's
to.
what I'm saying.
Right,
I'm saying, like quicker
Going
guys, but you're asked to switch directions.
Hardest position
a
in
lot.
sports is cornerback.
But even at the nickel spot too.
Yeah,
That's my point.
right.
Like you're not gonna get. You don't really get the Marvin Harrison, tall, lanky, push the field vertically type of guy. Like you're going to get the shiftier guys.
Yeah.
You're going to get the beat you in a box in a space guys, and that means you have to have loose hips because you have to be
the
change
Aaron
direction.
Anderson's type of guys,
there
like
you
the
go.
guys who are super twitchy, and you're gonna get the ball in space. And hey, if you're out of position, you're gonna look like an idiot.
Yeah.
You are not gonna be anywhere close.
If you
You're gonna be
look at
whiffing
that,
people.
if you look at that model of that position in NFL football now, it's those guys that are like in the 185, 195. Maybe sometimes you see a longer, lankier, but they're smaller guys. They're smaller type corners. So, and at the same time, it's a tough position because at the same time you have to have a nose for the football, and you have to not be afraid to actually get in there and make tackles.
Yeah.
Too. So
no doubt.
Yeah, it's different. So we'll see how that plays out for him though.
Before we get into the rest of this conversation, because I do want to talk about the top 10 that just came out for the AP.
Before you keep going too, Dalvin Cook just signed with the Jets.
There we go. Oh, he's been manifesting that for a minute.
Yeah.
Boy,
Wait.
the Jets' backfield is
1 year.
stupid.
8.6.
Is he not in trouble?
Dalvin?
Yeah.
Why is Dalvin
They
Cook
just
in
put
trouble?
that under the rug. He's all good. You haven't seen this where his girlfriend at the time leaked all those photos of him beating the shit out of her? You haven't seen
Dalvin
this?
Cook? I have not seen him. No.
So I wonder if Alvin Kamara's going to get suspended. I imagine Dalvin
Search
Cook
board, baby.
might
Nobody
come to
else
light.
knows about this, but
How have not
Lloyd.
heard? How come this isn't like mainstream?
I don't know. That's what I'm wondering. I
It's
thought
only
he was
on
kinda, I
Lloyd's
thought he was
search
going to
bar.
get blackballed out the league, but
I have not
apparently
even seen this. Maybe I haven't. I just didn't. I don't know. I mean, if I see it, I'd imagine I'd remembered it.
it must have not
Regardless,
held any
minus
weight.
that, I have no idea about that. Right? But as a football player and someone, I never did know that. So that means you have Breece Hall, who's coming off injury, Michael Carter, who looked unbelievable in that preseason game, and now you have Dalvin Cook, who's obviously wants to play with Aaron, wants to play with a team that has a chance to win a Super Bowl. He obviously thinks that they have a chance because he wouldn't have signed there. Not only did he sign there, he's been vocal about, I'm going to sign. That's where I want to go. That's where I want to go. That's where I want to go. And now he's there. So,
and this is part of Aaron Rodgers taking less money to be able to get people like this on the squad. They're putting together a run.
They may have the deepest backfield in the league now.
And especially with Breece Hall, probably You think he's going to be 100% a go for week 1?
Maybe not, but like
That's what I'm saying.
eventually
Now
he
you
will.
have Dalvin Cook in the backfield.
Yeah.
where
Well,
you can kinda,
I don't know how healthy he is right now because apparently the reports are that's why there wasn't like a mad dash to sign him early, if you will, but because I don't think he's like if he signs today, I don't think he's on the practice field
Talking
tomorrow.
Dalvin?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not sure he's on the practice field tomorrow, so I don't know exactly where he is in his rehab or
Yeah.
whatever the injury is. He's gonna play and he's gonna be available a lot unless something else happens, but I don't know where he's gonna be week 1. In
great
the
for
sense
Hard
of that.
Knocks.
Great for Hard Knocks. They look good. Zach Wilson looked good again this weekend. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing for him. We talked about that a lot. We don't really want to talk too much about the Jets today. We talked a lot about them last week, but I really do think that it's going to benefit a lot from Aaron Rodgers. Before we get going, let's talk about the weekend. I had a good weekend. I know you had a good weekend. Lloyd went back. You went back home for the first time in a long time.
Did. Back to A-Town.
To A-Town. So you had a great weekend. Jack obviously was in the beach.
Jack been the beast boy.
Jack's been living his best life the last 2 weeks. He finished his internship. Congratulations, this big boy stuff. And you're going back to school, and you went to the beach to celebrate finishing your internship, which is awesome. And now you're back in school, and now we're back in the rotation of coming in here and being part of the squad. I appreciate that. How was the beach? It was hot as shit. Yeah, the water though, it's nice. The weather was great. Yeah, it was fun. Great scenery at the beach always. You know, you have the sunsets and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And the sands is very nice. White sand out in Destin. Is that what you want? Destin? Yeah. Pensacola. Yeah, white sandy beaches. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good sunsets.
Did you get in the water? Yeah. Oof.
Be careful for sharks, man. They've been showing a bunch of sharks out there.
I'm going
Labor Day.
I'm going next week, Wednesday through Friday. Through Saturday.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We're going to talk about the whole
Show thing.
thing. Yeah. How was your weekend, Jay?
Good.
What'd you do?
Took a little Dallas trip.
You're home away from home right there.
Yeah. We just popped on in. My wife's sister, 5-year-old kid's birthday party. So
nice.
we did that on Sunday. Not too much. Just, a little dinner Saturday night.
That's a nice dinner.
Yeah, man. Nice
dinner
little
tastes way better when it's
pop
free,
in,
too.
pop out. Holler at my boy Danny.
Yep.
Danny
Danny gave you
McCray.
some great insight on the Cowboys.
He's some great in
Our friend Damone Clark, friend of the show, came on the show. I know everybody knows him. Everybody talked about him being a steal in the draft.
Yeah. All I'm going to say
Sounds
is,
like he's a steal.
Yeah, all I'm going to say is keep your eyes on Damone Clark with the Cowboys this year.
I mean, he played in the first preseason game. He was the middle linebacker. He had the green dot on his helmet. If you don't know what that means he's making all of the calls on the defensive side.
He is the quarterback on that side.
He's a quarterback on the defensive side of the football. And they don't just give that to somebody just to give it to them. Like, you have to earn that right to be able to call the defense. People have to be able to trust you to put them in the right positions. And it says a lot, year two.
Yep.
So I know Danny had good things to say about him, obviously. That's always good. Lloyd, tell me about some A-Town.
Oh, I did laugh you on Friday. A-Town the rest of the weekend. Didn't do a thing. Played a little golf Friday. Got out there. No, Saturday.
Tale of 2 rounds for you. I mean, tale
Yes.
of two nines,
God.
isn't it?
I hadn't played in forever. I hadn't played since the bachelor party that we went on for in Omaha, and then got back at it. It was first round, first 9, terrible, awful.
Yeah.
Didn't care. Had a
Bad,
blast.
great.
Back on the
great
wagon.
back nine.
I've never, thought I was gonna be sober for the weekend. Didn't happen. So
Yeah,
now
but
it is.
didn't you say last week you're gonna drink
Yeah.
on the weekend? Or do
Yeah,
on the weekends,
I found a
but
good. I found a.
That's good. Now it's all about.
Yeah.
It's all about.
8 days. That's all you can ask for.
No. You have to stay strong with it during the week, and then I'm not saying blow it out.
Yeah.
But if you want to have a couple pops on the weekend, that's fine.
So they
it's
settled in
all
on the
about.
back 9 and went 50-40. So
There you go.
That's a tale of that Joel Jekyll and Hyde
There you
round.
go.
But said I was gonna turn it around on 10, made birdie, then went birdie, par, but and then kind of fell off the wagon a little bit. But
Happens.
good to get back out there.
All part of it.
And then I'm going to play a little golf in Florida again. So
There you go.
golf is back.
Golf is back. Golf is
good.
back. Speaking of golf, congratulations to the FedEx. What was the term? It was a FedEx. Where was it at? It was in Memphis. By the way, how hot was it there in Memphis for those guys? You've never watched the golf tournament this weekend?
I watched a little bit here on Friday. I didn't. What happened? Somebody pass out?
No, dude. It was just 100. I mean, it was this weather, but you're playing golf and you're walking, and guys are wearing pants and they're sweating through pants.
Oh yeah, Lucas Glover.
That's what I mean, dude. I was trying to get you there. Like,
Yeah.
Lucas Glover wins it, right? He's led the entire tournament, and then kind of
No glove guy.
no glove guy, especially in the sweat. Like that's tough, you know.
Needed a towel.
He was grinded it out, made a great bogey, which is crazy to say, and then made a great par save. Kind of kept himself in it. Cantlay, who I'm not a huge fan of, he's very good at golf. I'm just not a huge fan of Patrick Cantlay. He goes up there, he makes them go. They go in that. They go to a playoff, and Lucas Glover wins. But Lucas Glover was going through it. His pants did not do him any favors, and that is bad. Like, you got to get him better, like sweat wicking pants or something.
Also a survivor of domestic abuse. His wife beat the shit out of him, and he stayed with her. So
What?
yeah.
How do you know this stuff?
She beat him up after he didn't play well because they weren't making enough money, and he didn't
Like
finish,
actually
physically
beat
assaulted
up.
him. Yeah.
Bro, what? What the hell
he
do
just
you
took
look
it.
at?
He wore it.
And what happened? Made him a better player.
I guess so. No glove. But
Nobody
have no
knows
idea.
these things but Lloyd. Like, what?
I had no clue about this.
you just got to stay on X. Stay on Twitter.
I am
Yeah,
on
but
Twitter.
what are you looking at?
I don't know. The algorithm is all over the place for me right now.
If I say your algorithm,
yeah, I don't suggest it for a lot of people.
you
That's
think?
suited for work.
I'm glad y'all had a good weekend. I had a great weekend. I'll stay here in Baton Rouge, and we went
Best
to
dress?
the Best Dress Ball. Yes,
Wow,
which
what
was
a Best
awesome. We
Dress
enjoyed our time there. It's for a great cause. It's for cancer, and there is a lot of very well dressed people. Look, there's Lucas Glover. Jay, look at him.
I mean, it's sweating through it. That's thigh sweat.
That's a good picture though, because the picture behind him when he would bend down to read a putt or bend down to put his ball marker. Not good. Not good.
I mean,
Not
I didn't
good.
know you could sweat even that part of your body
What?
to come through like that.
Oh, dude. When you're out there, you're sweating everywhere.
Yeah, just.
But-
that's what I'm saying. You
I mean, you just gotta know better when it's this hot and it's this late in the summer. White and khaki is gonna be
Tough look.
It's gonna be tough for
That's
18,
tough.
coach.
That is tough. I wore khaki pants the other day, and it was a bad move on me. It was bad, and it was bad. And it wasn't because I was sweating through my.
That's what I'm saying. That's a tough look.
It was because I would sit in the golf cart and I would rest my arms on my leg, and by the time I'm like, damn, my whole body's sweating, my arms are sweating. Now my pants look like I just peed on myself.
That's what I was gonna say. He could have gotten away with pissing his pants. Like
Why
nobody
would
would.
you do that?
Nobody would be the wiser.
Why would you
We
wanna
didn't
do
see
that?
John Rahm that said, I mean, if I really wanted anything on the tour, it'd be to have. Like stalls on every hole. Because like, I can't control when I have to go to the bathroom, but you make me wait because you don't think about it. Us, we can pee wherever.
They have to wait till the turn. Is that when they do it?
No, there's just like certain holes that have bathrooms on them, and he was like, "I wish we had just a stall on every hole.
No.
That would be great. I can't control when I can pee,"
No.
which is something I've never thought of because when you play golf, just with the boys, you
just
just go
pee in the
pee
woods.
whenever. Yeah, and so he can't
Yeah.
do that.
Pee on the green.
I think that's a fair enough ask.
Yeah, maybe
Porta
not
potty
every
every
hole.
hole?
Listen, if you don't need it on every hole, you can hold it for a hole. And if it's that bad, you should have peed the hole before they had it. It doesn't just happen. Oh my God, it's instant. Like it just came out of nowhere. It's not like a poop. You know what I mean? Like
Maybe that's what he was talking about.
yeah, maybe that is it.
Spaniard.
But my weekend was good. We had the best dress balls for great cause for cancer. A lot of people dressed very nicely. We got to see a lot of people around Baton Rouge. It was a great event. So I didn't have to travel, which made the great event even better. I was here, met a lot of cool people. We saw your friend, Trace. Yes. What? Why'd you're not your friend?
No, he's definitely my friend. Gruesome Juicem. We have a handshake and everything, but I just don't know why he was there.
He's supporting a great cause, Lloyd.
I know, but he's a Lafayette guy. I figured it would have been.
I mean, people from Lafayette go. It's not just a Baton Rouge thing. I mean, there's probably 200 plus tables
Cancer
there.
awareness stretches out to Lafayette.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cancer
there's
in
not
Lafayette,
only
too.
cancer in Baton Rouge.
That's true.
That's a thing. That's if you on X, I'm sure it'll tell you it's everywhere.
Yeah,
You know?
Systemic.
sure.
Yeah, it's a thing. It happens. It's a bunch of people.
How
And
we
so it's a
cured
good cause.
cancer?
Huh?
Isn't that what the president said? Cancer's over?
I don't think he said that.
I'm pretty sure he did.
I don't think he said that. But anyways, let's get through
maybe
this.
on Lloyd's algorithm, but
Yeah.
yeah, not ours.
So Fletcher's coming on in 12 minutes. Before he gets on here, we have the AP poll came out with a top 10, right? And the top 10 is, pretty much what people would think. I think Washington, they're at number 10. You have Michael Penix Jr. is still their quarterback, which I feel like he's been in college football forever. If you don't remember him, he was at Indiana. That's kind of where he made his name for himself, was very good. And then transferred to Washington. Washington was very solid last year. They have a lot of guys coming back, including him. So they're getting some preseason hype. They're ranked number 10. USC's ranked 6. So the Pac-4 has 2 teams in the top 10, which is a great start for them. Both those teams, actually,
Or
yep, they're all gone. Not Washington yet, huh? Has Washington announced that they're gone?
I don't think so.
I don't think
they're,
so
they're
either.
part of the Pac-4.
Yeah, Washington State, Oregon State. No, they're not. Washington's gone.
Yeah, it's Washington State that's still
Washington
there.
State's
Oregon
there.
State,
Oregon
Stanford.
State's there. Stanford and Cal are the Pac-4.
Yeah.
Holding
strong.
right? You have 2 of those guys in there, right? Current. Georgia's 1, Michigan's 2, Ohio State is 3, Alabama's 4, LSU is 5. So out of the top 5, the conferences that nobody wants to give a lot of credit to, and they don't want to say that they are the most elite football conferences, they make up the top 5. You have 3 SEC teams and 2 Big Ten teams in the top 5 to start the preseason, which is very good. And you have Penn State comes in at 7. They have been perennial top 10 teams preseason. They've been very good at not doing anything and then doing just enough to get back into the top 10 at the end of the year. Florida State comes in at 8. Clemson comes in at 9. So it is I think it's a pretty – the top 10 is pretty much what you would expect, but it makes me more excited for first game of the season.
We're getting to that point of the year where you
Yes.
start – it's the usual suspect at the top, but it feels like they always pepper in – you have to put USC there, right, just because of the quarterback play. And it feels
I think
like
they deserve to be there,
I do
you know?
too, but the defense obviously saw what happened against Tulane last year in the bowl game where it was,
That's the big thing.
yeah.
What's going to happen with the defense? Like, are they going to be able to stop anybody? And not even stop them, like slow them down. Hey, instead of giving up 50 points, let's give up 35 points. And then maybe we can win our games until we get to the playoffs. And then we play teams that have really good defenses and maybe we don't score 50 and we lose. But you can't give up 45 points a game. It just doesn't work.
But it feels like this year that Michigan's getting the big, like the nod of they always try to kind of shoehorn a team in. It feels every year where it's not an SEC team. They want to put somebody like
No, listen.
force a team in there. Michigan, I mean, I get it. They were in the playoff last year, but got shellacked.
They did. And I understand your point because you said it before. I'm going to let you get to your point.
No, I was going to say something else. Go ahead. Keep going.
You want to go?
No. Because this is about the team you just mentioned. So go ahead.
Okay. So Michigan, obviously, I get that, right? Like, yeah, they got shellacked. They have a lot of guys coming back. Jim Harbaugh slithers through that suspension that he was about to have. Now he doesn't have it. He is going to probably be able to coach his full season. If he does get suspended, it looks like it's going to be the following year, which he has come out and said that he feels like he's got 20 draft picks on this team right now in Michigan, is what he said. In a quote from one of his interviews is what he said. So I'm not saying that they're going to go ahead and be in the top 4 in the finals or whatever, but I think that preseason polls don't really matter that much, especially when you are getting to when you get to conference play. Like if LSU was preseason ranked 18 right now, it wouldn't matter because they would go, if they would win the games that they would win, they're going to be where they need to be and they're going to shoot up in there. Now for Michigan, maybe it matters a little bit more because they're playing teams, their schedule may not be as tough, right, or as respected. But I think they're okay there. Obviously Ohio State, they lose C.J. Stroud, but I feel like that system is made for just a high-powered offense. Alabama's Alabama, and then LSU I feel like brings back a ton of guys in which they've kind of earned.
So here's why I don't like them at 2. It's really the only reason why is because let's just say they go through a season and there's only one loss like on that schedule. Mm-hmm. And if, they spend some time maybe at number 1 because there's a loss somewhere or they stay at the 2 spot and say they drop a 2-touchdown game, which in essence really isn't that close, but say they drop a 2-touchdown game to Ohio State. How far are they going to drop?
Right. Not far. That's why the preseason helps them a lot.
Exactly. And that's for me is why I'm like, I get it. They got a lot coming back, but we can sit here and say that last year doesn't mean anything, but it obviously does, or you wouldn't see the people that are ranked where they are, right? So if they're going to be ranked where they are, then what they did to end the year last year, in my opinion, should matter. And it shouldn't warrant you a number 2 overall. And I don't really care what it is that you have coming back. Because, like I said, if you go through their schedule and there ends up being 1 loss, but let's just say it's a 2-touchdown loss, they may not drop that far. Maybe not out of the top 5, and they're right in that conversation for being in the Final 4 again at the end of the year. So that's why I'm kind of off of that for them.
Yeah, and I get that. And, I look at USC, I think the preseason 6 ranking helps USC, right?
Speaking of USC, did you see who they added to the staff?
Who?
I thought he was still on his hiatus.
Coach O?
Cliff Kingsbury is back in the fold.
Wow. What's his role?
I don't know, but he'll be working with the quarterbacks again.
That Johnny Manziel got him some shine
again. He is
again.
back in the fold.
Maybe they're setting him up to be the next head coach when Sarkisian gets another job somewhere in the NFL, maybe. Isn't Sarkisian the head coach there?
He's at Texas.
Oh, he's at Texas.
He's at
He was
Texas.
there. My bad.
I was like, wait.
I didn't know where you were going.
That's my bad. That's on me. That's on me. He used to be there. He used to be there.
Lincoln Riley's
We
their
talked
head
about
coach.
the quote that he had last week, and
Fucking
weekend
fight
brain.
on. Yeah.
Weekend brain.
He gets that a lot too.
He does. Maybe not as much. Maybe that's why he got the job. Maybe that's why he got a new chance
Yeah,
at
got
Texas.
a new lease on life.
Yes.
Speaking
Okay,
of
that was my bad.
Kingsbury, they just can't quit him.
What do you mean?
He was USC.
He knows offense.
Well, no, but he was hired at USC
But here's
for
the
a
thing.
hot minute
Wait,
and then
time out,
left.
Time out.
Don't know if he's a good coach or not.
Time out. Does he know offense, or has he just worked with dudes? Because don't get me wrong,
maybe a little both.
Pat was good, but I think we can all say Pat's way better now than he was when he was in college. He had Kyler as well. Who else? Because this
Baker. Jalen Hurts.
and he had Baker as well.
No, not Hurts. He was after. That was after.
No, he had Baker.
Yeah.
So he's had Baker, Kyler,
Patrick
Mahomes, and then now
Johnny
he's going to work.
Manziel.
And now he's going to work with Johnny Manziel, and now he's going to work with Caleb Williams. So
No, you're right.
Does he
You're right.
know?
You're right.
You're
Does
right.
he
Get a
know
head
it, or
coaching
has he
job.
just
You're
been,
right.
or has he just
Listen,
been touched by?
It's a
by
lot
the
better.
jobs?
It's a lot easier to be an offensive coordinator when you have those types of quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I get that. I get that.
But he's literally on the record for the Johnny Manziel documentary going, I just let Johnny be Johnny.
Right.
Like, he didn't
Yeah.
do any coaching.
I
He
get
was
that.
just
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
sweat it out.
You're right. He lands on his
And
feet.
Patrick telling you that he really didn't know how to read defenses when he was in the NFL for the first year, to me tells me he didn't
didn't
do
know how
much
to
teaching
do it.
him.
He
there.
didn't know how to
No
identify
doubt.
the mic.
So does Cliff really know it, or is
No, you're right. You're good. Very good point.
Cliff knows something, dude. He was an NFL quarterback. Like,
Yeah,
I'm,
no,
that,
very good
yeah,
point.
Like
Very good point.
So, like, please don't take that with a grain of salt. But
Yeah.
how good of a coach is what I'm saying.
Right.
I guess I should say.
Very good point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
I get that. I guess
It
my
dominates
point.
a room.
My point. My back to the point that I was trying to make is we talked about USC, right? And you talked about preseason helping Michigan. I think the preseason rankings also help USC, right? Because they're sixth, right? They obviously have the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, the favorite to win it again, and a lot of hype around USC. They're trying really hard to make USC that team again, right? So they can have some West Coast relevance in college football. They start off with a very easy schedule up until they play Colorado on September 30th. They play Arizona the next week. And then on the 14th of October, they play at Notre Dame. Ooh. Then the next week, they play at home against Utah, right? Cal's not going to be great. Then they play at home on the 4th against Washington, the 11th against Oregon, and November 18th against UCLA. So they are going to be back-end heavy, but I would imagine after the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season, they're going to be ranked in the top 5, top 4, whatever they are, and it's going to come down to the end of the season again. But I think that 6th ranking helps them out.
Yeah, that's
a
what
lot.
you said that. I think you were kind of alluding to the fact that preseason polls don't matter. I would say that they do for teams.
For a couple teams, yeah, you're right.
'cause
You're right.
You
For
get
certain
shoehorned
teams.
in there, especially like he was saying with Michigan.
It
where
doesn't matter for
you
teams
lose one
that
game,
have-
but you're ranked number 2 in the country. If you lose that one game to Ohio State, you still are relevant and
Right.
have a chance to be in the college football playoff
Yeah.
because you ain't played a game yet.
Bye, guys. I get that, and I guess I'll rephrase it that it doesn't mean anything to teams that have a tough schedule, right? Like SEC, and honestly, Big Ten for the most part. Like Big Ten's going to get credit for their schedule for the most part. But if you're in the SEC, it doesn't matter if you're ranked 1 or 35th. If you go ahead and you beat the teams on your schedule, you're going to move up in the rankings, and that's the only thing that really matters. But is Fletcher in the chat or no? I know we're early. We're still a little early. Just want to make sure.
It's not there yet.
Not there. That's fine.
I'll let you know when he
I know
pops
you.
in.
Well, sometimes you forget.
I know I did forget.
I know.
We'll also have 2 video calls open. I don't know which one he's going to join, so I haven't really messed with it because it works for now. So I just didn't really just keep it the way it is. So I have to
Okay.
look at 2 video calls. We'll see. But when Fletcher's
Is Dabo back? Is Dabo going to bring Clemson back this year? Like Clemson is for preseason top 10. They have
They
a
just kinda ran
quarterback
out of
that's supposed to be
teams.
pretty good. Their defense apparently is really good again.
quarterback,
I was going to say
Yeah.
quarterback.
I don't know, man. We'll see. We'll see what happens with Florida State, and if they, end up beating them, they're gonna, there's noise to be made.
James
there,
Franklin
at
at
least
Penn State's going to go 10-2 again, like he always does. He's going to lose to Michigan and lose to Ohio State and be 10-2.
Get a new contract.
They're going to fall out of the top 10. They're going to be whatever. Then they're going to win those games, go 10-2, and they're going to end up 7th or 8th in the country to end the season. That's what they do every year.
Uh-huh.
then he gets
Every
an
year.
extension. Mel
And then
Tucker,
when they expand the playoffs and they make it and they get boat raced in the playoffs.
No, they'll get through like round 1 maybe.
Maybe. Yeah.
he's just waiting for next year.
10-2.
Get him into the playoff.
Book it.
12-team
10-2.
playoff.
You
Yeah.
just mark it
Book
down.
it.
10-3, maybe.
I would love to know what the Vegas over under is on their win total.
It has to be 9.5.
9.5. I'd imagine.
Got to be set at 9.5.
9.5 for them. 9.5 for the Saints. 9.5 for LSU.
Right.
9.5 for both Louisiana teams. So it's what, 19? Is it over under 19 for the total? Is that what they're going to do?
Yeah,
it'd be 18.5, I guess.
What was it last year?
It was.
I think it was in like the.
It was 7.5. I think it was 17.
It was
Like
7.5.
17.5.
It was 7.5 for.
LSU.
No, 6.5 for LSU. It was 7.5 for the Saints. And I think combined, it was over under 14 wins or something crazy, or 14.5.
Out.
And LSU, we were like, oh, the Saints are definitely going to get 10 wins. You know what I mean? Like, they're definitely going to do that. LSU's the one we have to worry about. And instead, LSU carried that bet and won it for all of us. Which I got to start putting – I need to get my count back right. So I can start putting some bets in again.
Yeah, absolutely. I gambled on the preseason.
I don't like doing that.
2-3. But it was a 5-team parlay, so it didn't matter.
You just couldn't stay off of it. That's
And I didn't even watch. I watched like probably a combined 15 plays.
Our friend Brooke, who came on the show last week, I think she's talked about Jameis, going out there and becoming a trade, I think, because Jake Haener obviously was good. Now, listen, people are going to go at Jake Haener and say, oh, he wasn't as good as we thought he was going to be. It was his first preseason game as an NFL quarterback. He wasn't perfect, but I think he showed some signs of being pretty good. I think he showed, hey, I can make some mistakes, but I also can go back. I think there was some miscommunication. Drew Brees was up in the booth talking about how, there was a couple of back shoulder throws that he tried to attempt, and the receiver and him just weren't on the same page. And so, I think he's still going to be really good. I think I liked what I saw. I'm not saying that he needs to be ready now. And, maybe at some point, Jameis, someone's going to get hurt in this NFL season, and maybe they need a starting quarterback, and they can trade for Jameis.
That's where I thought Brooke was kind of onto something, because the way that Jameis looked, he's not.
He looked good.
He's not a
bad
backup.
slider, terrible slider. Does not know how to slide. And he was a baseball player, which blows my mind.
Well, he didn't hit, so.
You're right. He's a big need.
Yeah, I mean,
he's
I'm talking about like once he got into college ball too.
Now, I will say
right?
this: maybe it's Jameis's way of saying I'm going to get every yard I can, and I'm just going to drop to my knees instead of, because when you start to slide, that's when they call it dead. So maybe he's running and trying to catch every yard, and then just drops to his knees and then bangs his knees. That's a risky move, but very awkward looking slide.
Here's the thing, though. We keep talking about it. If he looks good, he's a good trade piece. And I'm not saying that he's not. But I personally think, like, the better he looks, don't you want to keep that? Because in the instance that
you want the backup, you want a good backup.
In the instance that just something freak happens and your starter goes down, like
I agree with
would
that
rather
too.
something that's got something proven, that's
You don't
got
wanna
something
look- you
to
don't-
prove,
right.
and he's got some there's just you don't want to have to like if we're in a we're looking at a season, say they're in a season where they're playing really well, right, and they're winning, and they have aspirations to win the division and get into the playoffs, and then all of a sudden something were to happen. Do you want the kid that's never taken a real NFL snap to have to go in and at that point, or do you want somebody with something that's proven to him? I think the better he looks,
I agree.
I want him to stay.
I want him to stay because you don't want to risk having a rookie quarterback
Right.
as your backup and giving him snaps when he's not ready. Right?
And-
He may
and
be
I-
ready,
and I
but
think
not now.
And I think too, like if they're completely honest with him, be like, hey, we get you to stay here. You do what you need to do. You ball. You look good. You look great. The offseason looks great for you, right?
Right.
We need you here right now, And I think that plays a lot more. If I had to think about it.
No doubt. I agree.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Now maybe next year he's trade bait. You know what I mean? Maybe after the end of the year,
no.
you trade.
I would imagine if he looks great this year, like this will be his last year in New Orleans. That would be my guess.
Yeah.
Right. Like you've drafted a quarterback. You got a quarterback you gave a lot of money to as the starter right now. There would like legit be no reason to have Jameis on the roster anymore at that point. And his time would be his time to go try to fight for a job somewhere else.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we can ask all these questions to Fletcher. Is he in the on deck circle?
I did not see him yet.
He's not there. All right, I'll text him and see. No.
It might be you.
Yeah, he was. We had no problem last week.
I wasn't here when the other person just did not ever join.
What happened to him?
I don't know. I never
on
got a
campus?
text after that.
We got ghosted.
I didn't text him after that either, though, to ask. I mean, that's not.
I didn't see him on Saturday.
I did everything I could do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Rough
Sometimes
start.
you win some, you lose
and
some.
sometimes you just don't. There's
Did you
no
tell him
answer
that
you
you
need.
committed to Bama? Did
What?
you tell him that you were a Bama kid?
I did not tell him that.
Maybe that'll get you back on the right foot.
I think that we're gonna have to turn on some of these.
Yeah, you look a little blue.
Yeah, these lights. I think we're gonna have to do that. Can we do that?
Absolutely.
He's calling in now. Thanks. We can see you're on air how bright I'm gonna be. I think I told him it was a video call. Yeah, I did Zoom. That looks better already.
Yeah, I tried to catch Jared that week at the beach.
Boom, look at that.
So I tried to catch you while I was at the beach. Couldn't do it.
We got shadows and stuff. I'm good with that right now for right now,
Good.
though. All right.
You're not gonna. So I like for Jared.
Can y'all
Because he's behind the bright lights, so it messes with your lighting.
can you email him again? He said he doesn't see it. Maybe it's in his thing. Sorry, you're on air talking about all this.
That's how the sausage is made.
But yeah, to put a bow on our conversation before we ask Fletcher, like I'm with you. I think that we should keep him as a backup right now because backup quarterbacks, I think, especially over the last couple of years, we've realized how important they are to the team and the success of the team. But it's encouraging to see what David Carr did because,
Oh, of course.
I mean, Derek, I keep saying David.
Yeah, of course.
Derek Carr.
Mikey's got the Mondays.
I do have the Mondays. But he looked unbelievable in that offense, and he made all the right moves. The offense ran crisp. And to do that first game, I know they say, oh, it's the first preseason game. Well, you're playing the starters for – starting defense for the Chiefs were on the field. The starting offense for the Saints were on the field. And if there was supposed to be a game that you're not going to be crisp in, it's going to be the first preseason game when you never played with the guys.
Yeah.
And you run smoothly. I think that's a good sign. All right, we're going to take a 2-minute break and get Fletcher set up here. You're watching Mik'd Up. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Are you gonna have a Heineken Silver for the game, maybe?
I don't want one now.
You gonna shotgun another one?
You want another? I don't know if you should shotgun because we still had that one last time.
I don't know. I feel like you got to redeem yourself.
I think
I
so.
know.
If you can have a drink, I don't think you should shotgun it.
The way
Okay,
it went,
I'll
I think
enjoy
you should,
this
I think
one.
you should chug
Why
it.
can't I scroll?
Maybe
This
not
one you did
shotgun
for
it.
the way it went last time, it's
Yeah, I could do. I mean,
Can't
I
say
can do
that.
anything. I know. All right, fuck it.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I needed
that's
my
much better.
colleague Kendall to help me out with this. I'm so sorry.
Open it up a little bit.
I need the 24-year-old that knows
6,
tech to help me out more.
8,
Okay.
9,
Okay. Now it's starting
I'm
to
so
drip. Now
sorry.
you're struggling a little bit.
12.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, well,
not bad.
I'll give you a
Not bad.
12 and a half seconds. How was
LSU
it? Was it
graduate,
good?
by the
Delicious.
way.
You can't do that
With a regular one.
with a regular one.
Right.
You know,
So
silver.
so
Silver.
sorry.
Why? Because the silver's lighter. It's got
Lighter.
95 calories. It's pretty crisp.
I
No,
res-
that's not even. That wasn't even cold. I know you don't necessarily need a cold beer. That was room temp.
That's
But-
the
I
old
respect
fraternity
how
days
quickly
in
you
the-
turned around and gave me a full sentence. That was quick. I
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
No
officer,
doubt.
I'm fine.
Respect that.
You've been, look, you've been
Walk the
around
straight
before.
line, kid.
Yeah,
You've been around before, but it was
just breakfast.
It's a very good beer.
It
It's a
is.
very light beer. It's something that you could
Easy to drink.
easy to drink,
Easy to pour.
Yeah. But it's something that I think it should be in the rotation at tailgates, especially with LSU baseball coming up. We'll get into some of the LSU baseball conversation. Welcome back to Mik'd Up. I always clear my throat. I don't like the clearing my throat thing coming out of break, but it's okay. It's been, like I said, it's a long weekend. I'm recovering from a long weekend. I apologize.
Couple
I'm
Heineken Silvers.
Couple Heineken Silvers. I'm fumbling over some words. That's
You
okay.
are.
That's okay. That's why I brought in Fletcher Mackel, three-time
Three-time.
Three-time
Player of the
Louisiana
week.
Sportscaster of the Year. Covers all sports for WDSU in New Orleans. Friend of the show, friend of ours, and I am excited to have him on the show because we're talking Saints. I was giving him my input. This guy knows a whole hell of a lot more than I do about New Orleans. Fletcher, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, and I am sorry for being late. I needed my my new 24-year-old colleague to help me out with some technology on my phone because I was like fumbling over things as a dude in his 40s that still doesn't know enough about like his own phone.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, you don't look a day over 30 years old, so you look great.
I got you pegged
It's
at 32, man.
Yeah, it's
No,
okay.
no.
It's okay. Listen, no hard feelings. I'm just glad you made it. Listen, the beauty of our show is that we don't have strict time slots. We can do whatever we want because we don't have anybody in our ear telling us what to do. So I appreciate you coming on. Let's get right to it, man. The Saints are going to the Super Bowl, right? That's what it looks like. After one quarter of preseason football, I mean, they are the Super Bowl favorites, I think.
I mean, look, you're right. That opening drive, 80 yards, 6 first downs. Carr mixes it up to wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs. If you watch just that, you are 100% right. They're probably the best team in the NFC. I do think there's reason for, like, cautious optimism, though. For the first time in 2 years, you've got a real established quarterback since Drew Brees. No offense to Jameis and Taysom, but this is a steady, reliable, proven hand at the wheel. And the good thing about the Saints, if the Saints played in the AFC, we wouldn't even be talking about it. I mean, the AFC is just like is a beast. I mean, probably 9 of the 10 best quarterbacks are in the AFC. But the fact that the Saints are in the NFC, and specifically the NFC South, like I think the Saints are probably the 4th or 5th best team in the NFC. And so, yeah, I think the Saints could make a run. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they bring back a lot of pieces. Obviously, Alvin is going to be out for the first 3 games. He looked awesome in the first preseason game. And I know it's preseason. I know it's hard to put a lot of stock into this, but it was 1-versus-1s in that first quarter, and at least those first couple drives, and they looked really good. Michael Thomas is back out there. It seems like he's bought in. You have Olave on the other side. You have Shaheed out there that can take the top off defense. And then you have this guy, the 6th-round pick, O.T. Perry, who looked like he's been in the NFL for 2-3 years and should have been a 2nd-round pick, who looks like he's going to make some noise in the receiving room. Seems like the offense has a lot of weapons that at their disposal, and you have a quarterback that can disperse the ball. I mean, the biggest question mark for me is Carmichael. Is Carmichael going to be able to call the offense the way that we've grown accustomed to? I don't know what you're hearing about that behind the scenes over there in New Orleans.
Yeah, I'll say this. Look, Lance Moore, the Saints Hall, he's a list at our station here at WDSU. And last year, he came to the defense hardcore of Pete Carmichael. Like, when people are pushed, you see where their true colors are. So Lance was like the biggest Jameis stan ever. He and I used to go round and round because I was a Taysom guy and he was a Jameis guy. And he was talking about let Jameis cook, wait till you see in Pete's system. And in those first discombobulated last year, that Lance did a 180 very quickly and came to the defense of Pete Carmichael going, it's not the scheme. It's not the play calling. It's not Pete. It's the quarterback play. And I get it. Pete deserves a little bit more heat than I'm not completely absolving him of all of the sins of the offense last year because like that Cleveland game, he called a horrible game in that crazy cold weather. But I think Pete is a really talented offensive coordinator who was here with Sean and Drew since day one. And I do think Derek Carr gives him the opportunity to get back to the true Pete Carmichael that maybe kind of deviated away last year when he didn't have steady quarterback play. So, look, I'm a Derek Carr guy. 2 years ago, I wrote a column when Drew Brees retired, and there were rumors that Carr may be on the trade block with the Raiders, saying the Saints should go get Derek Carr. I really think he could be a great successor to Drew Brees, and people laughed at me. So now I kind of like to chirp a little bit for all the people that want to jump on the Derek Carr bandwagon. But I think Derek Carr in this offense, because of the things you said, not that Derek Carr is the savior, But because they've got a quality offensive line when healthy, and because of all the playmakers that you named, specifically Kamara and Olave and Shaheed, and if Michael Thomas is healthy, and Juwan Johnson, who could have a breakout season, and Foster Moreau, and Taysom back into the role that he played in 17 and 18. I mean, that's a lot of really talented weapons with an accomplished quarterback and a veteran offensive line. I don't see why people aren't talking about them more in the NFC right now since it's so wide open.
You mentioned the health of the offensive line, and I want to get back to that in a little bit, but I want to first talk about a name in my mind that has been kind of a thorn in the side of the Saints for a while, but I think when healthy, his ability to completely open up this offense, I think is not really matched on the rest of the roster. How healthy is Michael Thomas right now, day in, day out, and do you see him being able to last a full season this year?
Look, I'll say this. I mean, I've covered Michael Thomas since the day he got here. He was an Iron Man. That's the crazy thing. He never missed games until the 2020 season when he suffered the high ankle sprain in the season opener during COVID against the Bucs. And since then, he's played in 10 of a possible 50 regulars. He missed 40 games in the last 3 years. That's just crazy. But even when he plays those games, he just hasn't looked like himself. I am under the opinion that Michael Thomas may never be Michael Thomas again. Now, that doesn't mean he's not a good player, but to think that the surgeries and the hardware that he's had come in and out of his leg and ankle, to come back to be the 2019 NFL Offensive Player of the Year again may be a bit unrealistic. If Olave is their one, though, and Michael Thomas is a 80% Michael Thomas is their 2, that's still a pretty great number 2 wide receiver. And if he comes back anything more than that, then man, oh man, they are really loaded because, I mean, defenses, Olave's been the star of training camp so far. If Michael Thomas gets back to being a number 1 receiver, this offense is locked and loaded for bear. And so, but Michael Thomas has said he's not 100%. He told us last week he wasn't 100%. So I don't know when he's going to feel 100% or if he's ever going to be 100%. Look, you all are baseball players and y'all played in the major leagues. And so I like parallels. To me, I would compare Michael Thomas to a pitcher who used to throw like 98 with nasty stuff. And then in the last 3 years, he's had Tommy John surgery and labrum surgery. Is that guy going to get back to being that ace Cy Young guy? Or is he just going to be... Right. Is he going to be like a guy that's a number 3 starter now, but still solid, even if he's not the ace of your rotation anymore? So I think people have to temper expectations. He's still going to be a key cog, but people that think he's going to be the 2019 guy, I think that may be a little too much.
And, I mean, can you elaborate a little bit on the O-line? Because like you said, we all know this offense will go as this offensive line can stay healthy and they can go. Where are they at as a group right now, and how good do they look?
And how good does Trevor Penning look? Because obviously he's kind of the loose cannon, but I think you'd rather try to dial him back than try to motivate him. So that kind of goes into Jared's question.
Yeah, look, I'll say this. Look, Penning got the red shirt last year. When you talk about the eyeball test, the dude passes the eyeball test with flying colors. He's like 6'7", 325, and looks every inch and every pound of it. I mean, when you watch him out there, it's like, good God, man, where did they grow this guy in Iowa? Because he is just like, I mean, he's got to be the first guy off the bus. If it's not DeMario Davis to just intimidate you, he comes next, and it's like, okay, like, look at the size of this dude. And so the thing about Trevor Penning in the preseason before he got hurt last year is just his size. He can move humans. So he's going to be a mauler in the run game with that nasty streak. But can he protect Derek Carr's blind side? Look, there's a lot of speed rushers in the NFL. And in week 1 against the backup, he held up pretty fine this year. So that to me is going to be the big question. Has he learned enough technique, and is he going to be strong in pass protection? So it's still a work in progress, but so far so good. Andres Pete, I think, is marked for the bench. And he's been a lightning rod for fan frustration for years. But he got injured, and James Hurst is a guy who is like the most reliable offensive lineman they've had here as a backup in years. 2 years ago when Ramczyk got hurt, he started at right tackle 10 games. Last year when Penning got hurt, he started at left tackle. The day that Andres Pete went down, he kicked into left guard, and he's been good. I think Andres Pete is someone that's been frustrating. He's on the last year of his contract. I think James Hurst is going to end up starting at left guard, and Andres Pete's going to be a backup. The rest of the offensive line, Cesar Ruiz had a good game. Eric McCoy's a top 10 center in the NFL. When Ramczyk is healthy, he's a top 3 to 5 right tackle in the league, but his knee's got to be healthy. So again, if the O-line is healthy, Jared, I think they have an offensive line that is awesome. The problem is they don't have a lot of great depth. Yesterday in the preseason game, you saw it.
Yeah.
I mean, 6 sacks. I mean, the backup offensive line, they got to figure that out. I mean, they look atrocious. You know, Jameis Winston holds the ball too long, but he and Jake Haener got no help from the backup offensive line. So the starting offensive line, good. The backups, especially once they get past, you know, maybe Pete, if he's a backup, suspect.
Before I get to the defense, because there's a lot of conversation I want to have on the defensive side of the ball, Marcus Lattimore looks like he is all the way back, but we're going to get to that in a second. The last little question I have about the offense, right? Obviously, Kamara's gone for the first 3 games, right? He's going to play through the preseason. He's going to look good through the preseason. Everybody's going to be excited about him coming back after those 3 games. One, I think it's a win for the Saints to only have him suspended for 3 games based off of precedents and prior suspensions in the NFL. And 2, Kendre Miller, who everybody was super high on, drafted him and had a great camp. He kind of goes down, dodges, you know, some disaster there with only a knee sprain. And then they go ahead and they sign Darrel Williams today in free agency. What's that running back situation look like? And are you comfortable with the guys that we have in place right now?
Not really. I mean, here's the thing. Alvin Kamara looks great. I mean, in camp, he's looked great. He says a weight has been lifted off his chest, so to say, because the situation in Las Vegas has passed him. I think I thought it was going to be 3 or 4 games. I think Kamara going to speak to Roger Goodell made it 3, not 4. But they need him. And look, they know they're going to have him for 14 games. And I think Jamal Williams is a really talented player, funny guy, awesome guy. I don't know if he's that quote-unquote bell cow, though, that can do what Kamara did. And then they had high hopes for Kendre Miller, but the sprained knee, I'm glad it's not more severe because he's had some injuries and he was unavailable during offseason because he was rehabbing an injury. I know that they signed Darrel Williams, the former John Ehret High School and LSU player today, but they're going to be piecemealing it together. And again, we talked about the weapons they have. You know, Taysom Hill's only snap yesterday. He lined up as a fullback. So I think they'll get creative with him. I think they'll get creative with what they have. But missing Kamara, especially against a team like Tennessee that's going to play like that ground and pound game with Derrick Henry, like it's not good because there is no other Alvin Kamara. And I think that Jamal Williams is good, but he's not good if you have to give him 20 carries a game.
Right. And part of that ground and pound, right, if they're going to do it, we're going to have to be able to stop the run, right? That goes to the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, Marcus Lattimore looks like an all-pro, right? He looks like you expect him to look, obviously recovering from the injury last year. On the other side, you have a cornerback battle with Alontae Taylor, and you have Roby in the slot, and you have all these guys who are really good in the secondary, really on the cornerback position, and you go to the linebacker spot, right? You have Demario Davis, who's Demario Davis. He plays he's going to play till he's 40 years old, and he's going to play every game, I feel like. He's a freak show. And they signed Jalen Smith, and you have Pete Werner. What does that front 7 look like, and what's the cornerback positioning or the battle looking like?
Yeah, so I still think it's going to be – I think Paulson Adebo may start – look, Alontae Taylor and Paulson Adebo have been battling for that outside spot. They've played Alontae Taylor in the slot with Bradley Roby, who you mentioned. Look, Alontae Taylor had one good pass breakup yesterday, but he also got beaten on a deep ball yesterday. So, again, I think that it's still very much a battle between he and Paulson Adebo for that starting job opposite Marshawn Lattimore. Maybe Adebo took one step forward yesterday because of Alontae Taylor not playing as well, but I still think it's wide open in these final 2 preseason games. And then, look, Roby and Alontae Taylor, I think, could kick down into the slot. Dennis Allen, ever since he got back here in 2016, at the end of 2015, and then in 2016 when he took over as defensive coordinator again, has really played a 4-2-5. He plays 3 safeties or 3 defensive, 5 defensive backs, so to say. They had for so long Malcolm Jenkins and Marcus Williams to go with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson for those seasons, when they were good. And they really only have 2 linebackers. They say they play a 4-3 front, but really it's more of a 4-2-5. And so it's Demario Davis and Pete Werner at linebacker. Last year, Caden Ellis was their other starting linebacker, but he only played something like 10 to 15 snaps a game. So I think that's what they look at Jalen Smith as, who they just signed, who, was a former solid player with the Cowboys, devastating knee injury at Notre Dame in the Fiesta Bowl. I think they look at him and say, hey, look, if he can be that guy that can give us 10 to 15 snaps, that was Manti Te'o for a while. That was I'm having a brain lapse here from LSU. I can't think of his name right now. Who signed with the Jets?
Quan
for a while.
Quan.
Quan Alexander?
Yeah.
Quan. Right. It was Manti Te'o. It was Quan Alexander. Last year it was Caden Ellis. It's more of a reserve role for that third linebacker because, as you said, Demario's the dude and Pete Werner is the emerging dude. And so I still think Jalen Smith is going to end up being that guy as the third linebacker that they have there. But the secondary is an interesting battle because Alante Taylor or Paulson Adebo, and then who plays, Bradley Roby has played a ton in kind of that slot role. So I think that's going to end up being his job. And then you talked about the front. I mean, realize the Saints lost 3 of their 4 starting defensive linemen. They just let them walk in free agency. Marcus Davenport was a bust they let go. They let David Onyemata go because he was too pricey, and same with Shai Tuttle. And they replaced him with guys like Colin Saunders from the Kansas City Chiefs. They drafted Brian Brzee. They signed Nathan Shepard from the Jets. So I think that you look at those 3 guys, and they're going to eat up a ton of the reps, between those 2 tackle positions. Those 3 guys, I think, are the ones everybody's going to look at to say that that'll be their rotation.
Obviously, a lot's been made of Dennis Allen and his defense, and that's kind of his calling card. When you see what happened last year with the Saints, it feels like he's kind of gotten everything in place, that every excuse that he would have had to. It feels like he's on the hot seat in my mind if you're Dennis Allen, and now he's kind of run out of, okay, it's not Andy Dalton, it's not Jameis Winston. You go out and get a quarterback. If the Saints aren't able to at least win their division this year, do you see him maybe possibly exiting New Orleans after only 2 years?
No doubt. And let me say this. I said this the other day. I got here. I've been at the station now 20 years. So I started covering the Saints here at WDSU in 2002. And I remember those years before Katrina. They won the playoff game with Jim Haslett, the first ever playoff win in 2000. And then in 2001, they were 9-7. In 2002, they were 7-9. In 2003, they were 8-8. In 2004, they were 8-8. It was a perpetual cycle of mediocrity. Haslett wasn't a bad coach, but he wasn't good. Aaron Brooks wasn't a bad quarterback, but he wasn't good.
So happy.
They were like a lot of teams in the NFL. It's hard to be great, and it's hard to be bad. This organization will never bottom out and be 3-14. They've got too many smart people. But can they go from mediocre to really good or great? If they don't do it this year, I really think they're back stuck in that cycle of perpetual mediocrity, and the football brain power of Sean Payton and Drew Brees left the building, and they're back to pre-Katrina Saints. So I think it's got to be Derek Carr. It's got to be Dennis Allen with his coaching staff, with his quarterback, with this veteran team, because if they don't do it now, then when? And I'm not saying do it now means win the Super Bowl, but they better win the division and better look solid in the playoffs. And if that means out in the divisional round in a really great game or getting to the NFC Championship game, you better see growth.
Yeah.
Another 7-10, 8-9 season, to me, it means they're stuck back in a cycle of mediocrity that they may not get out of anytime soon.
Now, you basically set me up perfect because you're talking about doing it now.
He's been doing it for 20
years.
years. Dude.
Very,
He knows what he's
very
doing.
important. He does. He knows what he's doing. I'm looking at this schedule right now, and we are looking at through the first 10 games, through the first 11 weeks of the season, because the bye week is in week 11. There's a questionable, we'll call it questionable, 3 legit quarterbacks that you're going to face in those first 10 games, even though you only have 4 home games. Then I look at the back end of the schedule, and your only road games are 2 Atlanta, which is in a dome, 2 LA,
Which is perfect.
which is perfect weather, and to Tampa Bay, right? So now you don't even have the cold weather Saints question on the road at the back end of the season. In your mind, how important is it for them to get off to a really good start? Because if you're asking me about schedule-wise, how do you set one up that looks like it could be a success, it's hard to argue against this one.
So, and I can follow up on that. Look at that schedule. Do you know who the best quarterback the Saints will play this year is?
Kirk Cousins.
It's Trevor Lawrence. Is Kirk Cousins like better than? But like
either way, that's what I said.
Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, I mean, like I look at the schedule and it's like, yeah, they better start off fast and they better be really good because you don't have, like last year you could look at their schedule and go, man, oh man, they still have to face Brady and oh look, Joe Burrow's coming to town, right? I mean, last year you looked at it and they had like a lot of elite quarterbacks in teams on their schedule. This year you look at their schedule and go, damn. Like, it's hard to even find, like, I mean, you're talking about, like, Indianapolis is probably going to play a rookie quarterback. Carolina's playing a rookie quarterback. Houston's probably playing a rookie quarterback. Is Matthew Stafford washed? I love Matthew Stafford, but, I mean, who knows what he is anymore? When we're talking about Kirk Cousins arguably being the best quarterback that the Saints will face this year, like Ryan Tannehill, I have no clue. I think I looked at the schedule and I go, it's a quarterback league. The best quarterback the Saints may face this year is Trevor Lawrence. I mean, Daniel Jones is like
Vanilla Vic.
But you're right. Like, you're right. I go through the schedule and see soft spot, like favorable for the Saints. There's nothing about the schedule that isn't favorable for this team, from the cold weather games to who they play to when they play. Like, that's why I just think, and what you all said before, Dennis Allen has his staff. He has his quarterback. The team never wavered on their support from him. They kept all these veterans. Like, they better win the NFC South, and they better be a solid playoff team this year. It better not be life or death in a crappy NFC South just to get into the playoffs and then get popped in the wild card round by some like mediocre team. You know what I mean? Like, that's not good enough this year.
All right. Well, with that said, I'm going to put you on the spot because I've kept you a long time. I know your time is very valuable, but I'm going to put you on the spot. The Saints have a favorable schedule. They have a team with a veteran quarterback. What is your prediction? What do you think? I'm not saying what the ceiling is because I think everybody knows, like, with the talent, everybody stays healthy, with the balls rolling the right way, the ceiling could be the Super Bowl. Where do you see them finishing? What?
The ceiling is the roof.
Shut up.
Super dope.
What is your prediction on what's actually going to happen to New Orleans this year?
He's asking you if it over under 9.5 wins, Fletcher.
No, I'm not asking that.
Yeah. No, I'm going over.
There you go.
Yeah. So I'm going over the 9.5 wins. And just so you know, I am not in a huge rush here. I'm sitting in an edit bay right now.
Okay.
So thank you for having me, and anything you want, I'm always here for you because you always like answer the bell for us, like, with baseball analysis and such. So so here's the thing. I can't believe I'm doing it. I'm going like 11-6 because of all the things we said. The weak schedule, Derek Carr, offensive weapons being healthy, a defense that's been the backbone of this team. To me, 10-7 needs to be the low water mark. 11-6, I think, is very fair. And then, look, once the playoffs start in the NFL, anything can happen. I mean, look, I remember a couple of years ago, Tampa was a wild card team. They win the Super Bowl. I remember covering Eli Manning and the Giants in 2007 when they were 7-9 and had to win 3 games to get in, and then they win the Super Bowl. San Francisco a couple of years ago, the Saints got bounced out of the playoffs, Sean Payton's last year, when they went 9-8 because San Francisco won the last game to get in, and then they end up in the NFC Championship game against the Rams. So to me, if the Saints can win this division, who knows how far they could go, because I like Philly, but I'm not anointing Philly as a juggernaut in the NFC just yet. And I love Kyle Shanahan as a coach, but I still don't know if the quarterback uncertainty is something that I can like grasp and say. It doesn't matter who plays quarterback in San Francisco.
That's what they say.
Dallas, I think, is good, but they're just an enigma. Like, I love Dallas, but I think Dallas just can't get over the hump. So I could put the Saints right now in Minnesota. To me, is one of these teams that, like, they're okay, but you don't really believe in them. And so I just say if the Saints can win their division, Why can't they make some noise in the playoffs? So if the NFC's wide open, so I think the Saints are going to be 11-6, win the division, and then anything happens from there.
I mean, 11-6, I think is a great season. And I think that if you start off the way that we talked about potentially being able to start off, you know how it is. You start getting confident. You start making these plays. These rookies start developing. Like, they have the opportunity to say, okay, we're going to start off 6-0, 5-1, and get onto this kind of this roll. And then all of a sudden you look up and you're like, damn, they're 13-4 to end the season. They're fighting for home field advantage in the NFC because you said it. The schedule's weak and the NFC is not super strong. So I'm with you. I'm very optimistic now. I'm a very optimistic person to begin with.
Big time.
Big optimist, okay? But I was thinking 11-6 was pretty good. So I'm glad you're on my page. I'm going to go ahead and put my future in right now for the Saints to win the Super Bowl and for the over 9.5 because you told me to do it. So I appreciate that.
And to win the division at plus 105.
I just for the record, I didn't say win
I know.
I did say over 9.5, and I'm cool with 11-6, but go nuts. And then look, cue this back up in January or February after a trip to Vegas and say I told you.
And if they win it, I'm just gonna cut out the second part and say that I give you credit for predicting that. Okay, so then we're good. We're good. I'll hook you up.
Creative editing.
There you go. There you go, Fletcher. Dude, I appreciate this. We'll have you on a lot throughout the course of the year, and talk Saints. Hopefully, it's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a fun football season here in Louisiana. There's a lot of hype between New Orleans and Baton Rouge, and that's always makes the fall a lot of fun. So I appreciate it, dude. And we'll have you back on here soon.
All right, thanks. Anytime. Have me on for the Pelicans. I can give some really crazy hot takes.
Yes, I love the Pels. We'll have listen.
Zion was out running around on the practice field.
We got plenty of time to talk about this. Like, I want some Zion storylines are going to continue to progress, I'd imagine.
9 months at a time.
Course until the NBA season starts. I'll definitely have you on Talk Pelicans. I appreciate you.
All
right, man.
Cool.
Bye. It's great. Great insight.
Great insight.
Great. Listen, we bring our motto on here is if you're going to come on here and you're going to be part of our squad, bring the personality. I never have to worry about Fletch bringing the personality. He always brings it. He gives great insight. He's very educated on what he's talking about. And it's always a great conversation. And the fact that he said he was 11-6 makes me very happy for this year.
I love that he still has the passion that he has. You can tell that he actually does like covering the New Orleans Saints.
Doubt.
Like,
he loves covering sports.
Yeah, he just loves his job.
For sure, which is awesome. And that's why he's 3-time Louisiana Sportscaster of the Year.
It's the hair.
Great hair.
Great
He's
hair.
a twin brother. He's very good at his job, too.
Big baseball guys.
Big baseball
Still
guys.
play softball together.
We had a big conversation. We had a lot of conversations about baseball throughout the course of LSU's run. But if you got anything out of that, it is be extremely optimistic about the Saints, right? Because they do have a lot of pieces in place, and don't be so quick to judge Pete Carmichael.
I think I'm so glad you said that because I think we're going to get a chance to see what a Pete Carmichael offense looks like with a quarterback that stays on schedule.
Yeah.
He mentioned it, like Jameis loves holding the ball. He mentioned Lance Moore talking about quarterback not really playing within the scheme.
And Lance Moore was super pro Jameis and realized, okay,
he's
maybe
not
he's
playing
not
within
there.
the scheme of the offense. So we'll see what it looks like with the quarterback that's staying on schedule, that's literally playing within the scheme of the offense, and kind of see how that thing really works. Maybe Pete was a little bit better than what we thought he was last year. Maybe Jameis was a little bit more the old Jameis more than the Sean Payton Jameis.
And maybe he was so scared about making a mistake. That's why he's starting to hold the ball a little longer, and he's not as confident in his reads.
Or maybe he turned back in let me push that thing down the field, old Jameis, and there was nothing to push.
That too.
So, like we put it like this, like you said, we didn't get the Jameis that we got when we saw Sean Payton working with him, right? Things changed a little bit. So maybe Pete wasn't as much as a problem.
And with that said,
we will see.
And with that said, right?
They totally mishandled that situation
last year. Yeah, and as bad as they were last year, they were 7-10. There was probably 5 or 6 games last year that could have easily gone the other way, and them have a winning record, win the division, and be in the playoffs. And that's just having a competent quarterback.
That's based off of final score alone, too.
Right.
Like, we're not going to sit here and talk about how bad they looked in the Browns game.
Right.
When you're just like, hey, we could have redid that, and maybe y'all would have won that easily if you just did better on the way you plan this thing out.
Yeah.
So, like, we're literally just going off of final score alone, where you're like, man, that's 5 games that could have easily gone the other way.
Right.
And that's what's so frustrating about the Saints, right? Because it feels like
if you flip them, 5 games, what's that record? Put you on the spot.
Oh, what were they?
5 games, so they're 7-10.
12-5.
So now you're 12-5. That's a really good season. You know what I mean?
And that's what's the interesting thing is, like, they could have been 12-5, they go 7-10, and now you have a situation where it feels like the team's ready to kind of win now. They have that window is, albeit closing a little bit.
That's what I'm saying. It keeps closing, but he just said it, and I'm glad he said that. The Saints are never going to bottom out because they have a lot of really smart people in the front office. They understand how to create a team that is going to compete
Cap's not
and
real.
win, right? And the cap's not real, right? But with that said, if you continue to stay in that mediocrity range, it's hard to get one of those game-changing players in the – I'm not saying hard. Let me rephrase that. If you're going to be bad and you're not going to make the playoffs and you're bad, at least you get a top 5 pick sometimes. If they're in mediocrity, you're kind of right in the middle, which you can still get a very talented guy, but if you're trying to get a quarterback, it's hard to get him, and you got to hit, right? You got to be perfect. But I think that people think, oh, their window is closing, right? Because all these guys are getting older. Drew left, all this stuff. Well, then you bring Derek Carr in. You have a veteran wide receiver on one side who's coming back. You have the heir apparent to the number one as a 2-year guy. And then you have a running back who you believe is going to take over the reins from Alvin Kamara. They're doing a really good job of piecing this stuff together. You have hopefully your future left tackle who's going to be there for 10 years. And so they're starting to put together these pieces that they need to continue to grow and not close that window. Pete Werner looks like he's primed to take over for Demario Davis whenever he retires. Marshawn Lattimore's got a lot left. You have 2 young corners. My point is they've done a really good job of building this team to where they say, oh, the window's closing, but you have these young guys who are developing, and now it's like, well, maybe we're just going to keep the window open for a while.
See, that's the optimist in Mikey right there, whereas to me, when you say window closing for an organization like the Saints, and like the Saints have been for the past 20 years, realistically, it is – window closing to me means a 7-10, 8-9 type of year. Like that's
over and over, right?
Over and over.
Yeah, right.
So like to my point is, I don't think you see them going into quote unquote rebuild. But when you retire a Demario and you graduate a Pete, well, who turns into the next Pete?
Right, and
that takes time.
You have to hit somebody.
That takes time. Right. So that's my point. Is like the window is open, but it may be closing soon. So it is time to win because when guys do move on, other guys have to take on much more prominent exclusive roles.
Right.
So then now how does the next guy come in? We could easily see a team that could be younger and go 7-10, but that also team have 5 magic wins and now they're 12-5 and now they're ahead of schedule.
For sure.
I get it.
For sure.
But when the season starts and you kick it off before the season, you want the feeling of this team has a chance.
Absolutely.
And I think you have that this year.
And so part of, I think we're saying we're on the same side a lot of this conversation, right? Because I'm not saying the window is not closing, right? The window started to last year, and I think now you go get a quarterback who you're going to have there for a few years who's still's got a lot left in the tank. So now you open up the possibility because once you have a quarterback that is very good and is capable of winning games, you keep that window open and you want to bring some guys around them. So they go out, let's say they go out this year and they go 11-6, 12-5. Now all of a sudden they are in that position of like, okay, this team isn't that far off. Now you have another linebacker who took another year forward in Werner, and hopefully you bring in some other young guys to fill those gaps, and you have Demario Davis for another year or so. So those guys develop, and then they make this run. And then you start bringing in guys back into New Orleans that want to play for a quarterback or a team that they feel like they like the coach. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm also not saying it's not going to happen. I think that last year was a one-off. Now, if they go 7-10 this year and they get rid of Dennis Allen, they have this whole debacle, then, okay, the window is about to be shut with deadbolted on, right? Like
you lost your identity.
Yeah, you have to figure something else out. You're going to have to restart. But if they go ahead and they have a good season this year, I don't think that you have to restart, and I think that you have the ability to do it. Now you have to develop guys and do all that, but I think they've shown that they can do that.
Especially with Dennis Allen, it feels like you have at least one thing. You know that defense is going to show up. Like he's proven time and again, no matter what you think of him as a head coach, his defense plays.
Right.
And so you feel kind of, I guess, certified on that end of the football. Now it's just, all right, that's what I think it's so mercurial about the Saints because you look at him and you go, okay, if you wanted excuses last year, you had him. You had Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston's trying to play with a broken back. You lose Drew Brees. Like you never really had Michael Thomas is playing. Now he's out and he never came back. You never really had any consistency on the offensive end. You righted those wrongs, it feels like a little bit, with adding a Derek Carr. But if it doesn't work out, then you are, or the Saints could either win the division or you're firing your head coach. There's really no in between.
Right. 100%. 100%. So It's going to be interesting. At least there's some hype going into New Orleans this year. Last year, I felt like there was nothing.
Oh, it was a turd
And it was
burger.
so bad. And it was like, damn, they got to start off. They had that really sloppy first game, but somehow ended up winning it. And you're like, oh, okay. And then they looked bad after that. It was just like, damn, this is not.
Just couldn't get over the hump.
Yeah, this could be a grind of a season. Hopefully they start off with a lot better season to start to the season, and it really continues to build that momentum because there's a ton of momentum here in Louisiana for football. When the Saints are good and LSU is good, there's nothing better than the falls in Louisiana.
It's a good place to visit.
I mean, this is you come in, you get to an LSU game, and then you get to a Saints game because if they're good, you get flexed hopefully into like the middle of the afternoon or some night games, and you have the opportunity to see both, and it is something.
It's a scene.
It is something. Speaking of LSU, they're on day 8 of practice, not day 10 like I announced earlier. They're on day 8 of practice. Day 8 feels like an eternity. You see a lot of guys in and out of the lineup. You see a lot of guys who are starting to make some noise.
One glaring omission from today is Denver Harris was not there, and he was not in the team picture.
Don't love that.
Brian Kelly's going to address it on Wednesday.
Don't love that.
No.
Not in the team picture. Oh,
not ideal. That's not a good situation.
I missed the team picture my junior year. I didn't feel like going.
Wow, you're a good team player.
Ah.
I mean, you're a great camaraderie guy there.
Why don't you just tell a story quickly? How did you miss the team picture?
I didn't go on purpose.
Why?
All good.
Why are you being so defiant?
I just me and the coach didn't see eye to eye. It was baseball too. It was very obvious I wasn't there.
Sometimes you gotta.
Like
sometimes
15
you gotta be
people on the
there.
team. Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta be there for your boys, dude. You can't just. You can't just. It's a little selfish.
So I had scheduled a meeting with him to talk about the season and where we were going. It kind of felt like we were fluttering a little bit, and I wanted to get as.
Oh, you're trying to be that leader?
Yes, and he didn't show up to the meeting that I scheduled. So I was like, all right, if you don't want to show up, then I won't show up.
Okay, well.
Well, tit for tat.
I understand that, but that doesn't get you really anywhere.
No, it didn't, but it got him fired.
Huh?
Got him fired in 2 years.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
You ruined the guy's life.
Good. It's fine.
Ruined his life.
Still friends.
But he's not in the team picture. He didn't miss it on purpose. Maybe he did miss it. And if he missed it, that's really not
That's
good.
also bad.
That's even worse. Not good.
It wasn't
right?
a great deal. That's what I'm saying.
The fact that Brian Kelly.
It wasn't great.
The fact that Brian Kelly said he was going to address it on Wednesday, I don't know what to make of that, right?
Listen, there's no good.
Does that
There's
mean,
nothing good about this.
Of you
does
not
that mean
being,
he had an injury and he has to see what the injury's like? Does that mean
That means no.
he messed up off the field? You're right. You're right.
I don't like that. I don't like that.
I don't like it
situation
either.
at all.
Have you heard anything?
Actually, here's the thing.
It's not for me to report.
He was involved in the
Okay.
fight last week.
Here's the thing. Do I not like it or do I actually love it? Like, don't get me wrong. The talent means a lot. But if this is the statement that we're making
Yes.
this early and we're
Yes.
making it loud and clear and these players know that whatever goes on or whatever went on is not tolerated with, maybe it's a good thing.
And that's the thing.
Addition by subtraction.
The
That's possible.
one thing Brian Kelly has harped on since he got here was he was going to change the culture and he had a certain standard that he was going to make everybody live up to. And he's not going to
LSU standard performance.
make sure he's not going to allow these guys to do whatever they want, and he's not going to make exceptions for certain players. And he has made that very obvious. In his
Denver
first
Harris
2
has been in
years
the
here.
crosshairs.
And Denver Harry had that conversation with Denver when they were recruiting him, and he said that he believes that everything that
His
we're in a
college
good
career
spot,
has
and then
been
something
crosshairs.
happens, and this is probably him saying, "Hey, listen, we ain't doing this." Hopefully, there's an opportunity for this guy to earn his way back. I don't know what happened. This is all speculation. I have no idea of why he missed practice and wasn't there. We'll find out on Wednesday.
I'll tell you in the break.
Huh?
I'll tell you in the break.
Okay, it's fine. I figured that. I was just not going to put you on the spot like saying that people knew so people don't wear you out about it. But not good based off of your facial expressions.
It's just
not positive.
It's not
ideal.
It's just the guy that you didn't want to have happen. Like, obviously, you saw what happened at Denver Harris. Either needs to get with it or it feels like get with it or get lost at this point. You know, it's like LSU took a chance on him. It's obviously at a position of need where LSU needed a corner. They go, and it doesn't feel like this was a Brian Kelly because of the way that the numbers played out for LSU in the position that they needed. It was a perfect storm for Denver Harris to be able to get a chance to come play for LSU.
Is this going to feel like a Denver Harris situation, leaving A&M, coming to LSU? Reminds me of a situation that happened very recently from a guy from LSU going to Alabama, and everybody was like, oh, my God, we're losing a 5-star starting cornerback, but he's going to Alabama, but then he doesn't play for 8 games.
Well,
I'm
Eli
not gonna
Ricks
name
had a
names, I'll let you name
I don't
names.
think it's.
Brian Thomas is still blocking that guy.
Yeah, you put him in the club.
Yeah, so
Eli Ricks
and
had,
we were
had
okay-
a personality
we were okay
trait.
with Eli Ricks leaving because of those situations, and Alabama saw it firsthand. Did he get drafted?
He went undrafted to the Eagles.
I honestly think it's a little bit.
Pick 6 the other night in the
He does that in spades.
Yeah.
I honestly think it's a little bit more of the Gilbert situation where we lost a 5-star who went on another place and they lost that same 5-star. Like we know what Denver can be physically, but he didn't put out at the place he just left. He's come here,
He has some character
and we don't know.
issues too. Yeah.
So we'll see.
You want to give him the benefit of the
Enrique
doubt.
had some mental issues, I
Yeah.
think, going on. I don't know what's going on with Denver. Maybe that's the same thing, but he had some stuff that is
Denver likes Denver.
popped up off the field again. You know, I don't know if again,
Well,
but
he was-
at A&M.
He was involved in the fight last week, so maybe he just continued that when Brian Kelly tried to put
Yeah, that's a long time to be out of it.
Yeah,
though.
yeah. That's day 4 of practice. Now it's day
If
8
this
of practice.
was-
Almost a whole week.
Yeah, if this was like pre-2000s and it took a while for us to produce photos,
Yeah.
I would say yeah, maybe. But you know, those photos are pretty instant right now. So I'm
So maybe he did it again today.
Yeah, just shit stir. But
Oh, maybe.
that from what I've heard, that is not the case. It was a
yeah.
team.
But I guess my point to it is I don't think the fight last week is the reason why this is the thing.
LSU had a big scare. Mason Smith went down, but then popped back up and got off the field on his own power. Jogged off the field with a slight limp, but I
Little
think
gait.
it's fixed. Little gait, little hiccup in the gate.
And that's where you are with LSU, right? You're just trying to get to the game.
Get to the game.
That's
and listen,
all that's
and
left
here's
really
my-
on the
here's my
docket.
point of that.
It's everybody at this point.
Yeah.
You know what you got.
I don't know if it was his same knee or not or whatever it is, but like, listen, you go through that type of a trauma, like a traumatic injury in the first game of the season, and this is a big year for you because it's just your draft year, and you want to make a big splash because you know how good you are, and people are talking about how good you are, but you want to be back healthy, like.
But people need to see it as well,
People
too.
want to see it, exactly.
No, they need to see
Right.
it as well. Yeah,
Right.
like
And you're gonna go through it, and you're gonna get bumps, and you're gonna not feel 100% right now, and you're gonna feel like, damn, I'm getting hit a little bit, and you're gonna be sore.
A little timid.
I think once you get past that, and you get past some of these big, okay, I got hit, okay, I'm fine. I recovered, okay, I'm good the next day. That's gonna start building confidence over and over and over again in his head, and say, okay, I'm back to where I need to be. That's gonna take a little time. I don't know how long. That could be 2 more weeks in practice, or that would be a couple weeks in games.
nah, it won't happen until you get in the game.
Yeah.
You just got to think about it. Like everyone that's in that same gold helmet knows who that guy is. They know what he's been through, and I'm not saying that it's not a take it easy on him, but they understand that he's needed, and they understand that it's important for him, right? So I do think that kind of comes when you get in a situation where realistically the guy on the other side of the ball doesn't give a damn about who you are
Right.
and where you're trying to go, and because they got aspirations as well.
Right.
And I think it's when you get in those situations, which obviously doesn't happen until it's another color uniform against you, that's when those situations kind of like that happen, in my mind.
No doubt. I'm with you. A guy that Lloyd talked about a lot. I mean, this is unbelievable.
Wow.
I mean, you couldn't have just told Jack to go get it?
I just thought of it.
I mean,
that's my dinner coach. I didn't want it to.
that's unbelievable.
If
right
y'all
there.
only knew what we just saw happen just now, good God.
Wow.
I mean, I put you on the dual screen. I think y'all look good. You don't need me here every second.
No, but that was I'm going to get up without saying a word, and everybody's like, what just happened? And then I see
thought
you
it
come
was
back
a-
in with what you came in with. I'm like,
I thought it was a dire situation, and then we came in to save the sandwich.
I thought your car was getting towed, or you were getting a
That's what was
parking
weird to
ticket,
not say anything.
or something. And next thing I know, he's got this nice. Let me guess, it's from
Firehouse.
Firehouse subs.
Yeah.
Great sandwich.
Made the trip from Elliot with it, and I was like, oh shit, I left it in the car. I didn't want it to go bad.
Oh, so you didn't even get it delivered? It was just sitting in your car.
Yeah, that's what. So
And
I
you just realized.
And he just, for some reason, thought
I thought
in
you
a
were gonna
3-hour
get away with
period,
You just realized we've been here since 5:15.
a 3-hour period,
Yeah.
he just thought in a 3-hour period that a sandwich just goes terribly bad. Just
Damn.
It goes from edible to I gotta throw it out.
If I don't get this sandwich this second, It is going to be spoiled in my car.
Now time out. Now can we just talk about this? The best part. The best part about it is he looked at us like, "What? You know I had to go do this."
Yeah, this is normal.
No, you didn't have to go do that.
At 5:45 maybe. And I'm like, damn, what's going on?
Yeah.
I was expecting to see you chasing your car with a tow truck next to it, but
I did know that guy though. Yeah. I don't remember his name. Yeah.
And look, you did it. You did the whole put on dual screen. We managed it. Now I wasn't gonna let you slide.
I know. That's what
After
I thought.
I saw with what you brought in, I was not letting you slide.
Not with what you came in here with. No.
that's
what would
amazing.
it have to have been to be?
That's
We
amazing.
just talked about what it would have had to have been. You chasing your car down the street,
Someone giving you a ticket.
patting a cop on or whoever on the back saying something like that.
Family
Not a
emergency.
sandwich.
Maybe even seeing the delivery guy bring your food in. It wasn't even that.
Yeah, even if it was the Uber Eats, I was like, okay, I get it. You don't want to eat late. I can wait. Okay.
Not even that.
No.
Okay.
You went and got a perfectly fine sandwich.
It'll be Lloyd.
It's been sitting
That's
outside.
fine. Look, and that's why we love you on the show.
I appreciate
and
it.
that we
fellas.
love you even more on the show because we can talk about this and we can make fun of you in front of everybody.
I thought for
and you
sure
can
y'all were
like
just
it.
gonna let it skate. Like, no big deal.
Oh no.
No, it turned into a whole segment.
It was good.
Yeah.
It was good. Appreciate
Little club
it.
sandwich.
Was it a club sandwich?
Uh-huh.
I like the grilled chicken from there. But I'm glad you're back because I want to talk about your guy.
Denver Harris?
We're talking about Denver going through his little snafu and.
That's what made me think about it.
You know,
Though. It was like, I want to be responsible.
Oh yeah, it's good.
So
That's good. I'm glad that
taking accountability.
I'm glad
for
that
myself.
triggered. I'm glad that triggered
Yeah.
that. Another guy who you talked about last week, and I had said, I think he's got the talent. You got to see it. I don't know. We haven't seen it yet. He kind of get banged up last year. You saw a little bit in the end of the season, some flashing. Chris Hilton. Chris Hilton had 2 big touchdown catches in the last practice. He burned a couple cornerbacks. Obviously, he's got world-class
Denver
speed.
Harris wasn't out there.
No, he was not. He has world-class speed, and he was a big-time recruit coming into LSU. It seems like he's starting to kind of come into his own a little bit with Jaden, understanding and throwing the ball and spreading the defense and going over the top. You have that guy like Chris Hilton who can take you over the top. So,
and that's what it feels like LSU. If you looked at the LSU like wide receiver room, you feel very comfortable with what you have. Like,
well, especially when you have a for sure number one go-to guy who, by all accounts and by every report that you've read and heard about, is one, he's going out there and he's extremely vocal. Not talking shit vocal, but like extremely vocal in the wide receiver room. He is the leader. He is the guy. He is the number one guy out there. He's going up there and he is making contested catches over everybody, right? Like, doesn't matter who's guarding him. He's going out there and he's making great catches. He's scoring touchdowns. He's doing everything that you want for a number one receiver to do. He's doing everything that you wanted to see Kayshawn do going into his draft year and his last year at LSU, of saying, okay, this guy is separating himself and saying this is the leader of the receiver room. This is the best receiver we got on the team. He's going to be a first-round pick. When you have a guy like that, that opens it up for all the other receivers to kind of take their time and do the things that they're good at without having to try to be more than they are, which I think is an encouraging sign in the wide receiver room. But I didn't mean to cut you off. We talked about the wide receiver room.
Oh, no. That
Kyle Parker's been MIA. I don't know where he's at.
I know, but I feel like that's just kind of like camp stuff.
Yeah.
Like probably
Yeah.
holding out freshmen. I don't think he's done anything to where it's
No, right.
Yeah,
right,
I think
right.
it's just probably like. Yeah, he just went there today. But for Chris Hilton, that's kind of the position where if you look at the LSU wide receiver room, like I said, you know what you have with Malik. You feel like you kind of know what you have with Aaron Anderson and kind of like this like slot role where he's going to be kind of like
I would love to see him, Aaron Anderson, come out this year and they figure out ways to get him the ball.
He needs at least
Somewhere
like
that. But I would
8 to
love
10
to watch
touches.
him break down nickels, right? Like nickel corners in that slot position and be able to, hey, you know what? You're going to be there and you're going to be the third down guy because 5 yards is nothing. You're going to break. You're going to get away from everyone. You're going to be able to create separation, and you're going to be this reliable guy. And if we get it and you make a guy miss, you may take 80 yards to the house. And then as the year progresses, maybe you get a couple double moves and you take him. You have a 50, 60-yard passes. Like, that's kind of what I see him, or at least I can hope to see early on in the season without him running the whole route tree. Maybe he is the guy. Who's
I don't think it's about to be. I really don't think you're about to see him run the whole route tree.
I agree.
What I think is if he flashes at all early, it will be very simple screen pass type stuff. I do think he was in I actually saw him play in high school one time, right? And I think he completely just out athleticized everyone that he played against in high school. That's fine. But when they throw you in a slot, think about it. Like, even when you get to professional football, when they get guys that usually get super dynamic in professional football, means they can move around from side to side, from slot. They can go in the motions and do stuff like that. That's all learning an offense. It's not athletic. That's not really athletic.
Yeah, there's a lot on your plate.
So my point is when you come from high school football to go to one offensive system and then you transfer over to a different offensive system, I personally think outside of maybe some simple plays that maybe he just absolutely takes the distance, it may be a while in this offense this year before you see him kind of really start to flourish and really start to do something.
Yeah, if you're Aaron Anderson, you don't want to have to hit the home run every time. If you're an LSU fan, you want to see him do the simple stuff first.
Right,
and
listen,
where
put him in
it's
the slot.
third and five.
No, but that's my point. Like,
absolutely.
So that's the difference, dude. I think the simple stuff is 1, 2, 3, step back, they throw you a screen, it's gone.
Yeah, right.
The hard stuff is you get in the slot, you do the whatever, because you have to know the verbiage.
You have to
you do
understand
the
what
motion
defense is
here and
playing
there.
here, yeah.
You have to read the safeties. You have to be able to run this 8-yard choice route and break the correct way.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like the easy stuff that you need on 3rd and 5. That is the hard shit.
Right.
That's the shit that's not easy to do because you have to learn the verbiage, you have to learn how to read a defense, and you and the quarterback have to be on the same page. And you have to know blitz packages and and who's hot and where's not.
Exactly.
So
and that's why I said
it
hope
sounds
that he
like
get there.
3rd and 5. No, that's the hard shit. That's why it's called the money down. That's why we don't go to the guy that's usually the 4th in the offense, because that's the hard shit to do. It really is. So the easy stuff truly is him catching a 2-yard screen and taking it 62 yards.
Yep.
Athlete.
That sounds like, that's the easy shit, because there isn't much thought. It's literally, bro, just get it in his hands and let him go.
Yeah.
But we can't get it in his hands and let him go all year. Like, you're not going to be able to do that.
Yeah, right.
You have to, for what his skill set is, unless he can literally show up and show that, once again, that he can go on the outside and continue to win long balls, win jumps, win catches, which I'm not
get himself open
exactly sure he's going to do that all the time.
And that's why I said that you would hope that's what he's going to be, right?
Right.
I don't think he's ever going to be that guy where you're going to put him out on the outside and he's going to run these deep comebacks, these deep dig routes, these
win in tight spaces,
like
make contested catches over and over and over again.
Right.
I'm not convinced he's there yet. I'm just not.
And he may not be, that skill set may not be his, but his skill set may be the Tyreek version. I think that's what you would hope to see eventually. Say, hey, you know what? You have elite speed. You can get away from anybody, right? You can create separation based off of how athletic you are. That's what you would hope. If you would understand the concepts, understand how to read a defense, understand spacing and timing, that to me is his ceiling. Early on in the season, I think you're going to see him hopefully be exciting in the punt return game or the kick return game.
Jet sweeps
And screens. And then as he continues to get a little bit more confident and understand the scheme, and hopefully he understands it now, and it's a lot quicker than we think. We don't know that, but to Jared's point, I think that's like what you would hope that he can get.
That right there really honestly is the equivalent of like what you're going to watch Malik do this year, right? Being able to move around, run the route tree, run inside stuff, run outside stuff. That's the equivalent of what they're asking Harold Perkins to do on the other side of the ball, right? Is to be able to be somebody that we can't account him lining up on the left end of the line every time. We can't account for this receiver to be on the left side of this coverage. I mean, the left side of this formation every time. That's what takes a really good receiver into a great receiver, when they can move him around and he can understand everything and read everything and be on the same page with the quarterback. That's the stuff it's not that easy to do.
No doubt.
And then when you're asked for it too, it's not afraid to get in there and block the outside linebacker, to dig out a safety that you have to go dig out backside. There's not a lot of people that want to do that. So that's what you're asked to do at that position.
Here's the deal too, like the room is so talented, right? We have so many talented wide receivers. Like Sheldon Sampson is
elite,
getting a lot of good publicity. He's getting some second team reps. He's making some plays. Like, I'm glad, because we talked about him coming in being this long, lanky, 5-star, super athletic in high school, going up and getting balls over everybody. Like, you're playing at Catholic High. You're playing in a 5A school. You're playing against good competition, but this is not comparable day in and day out, trying to go up and get high points some of these balls against some of these elite corners. He's playing really well. You have all these other guys. You bring in Kyle Parker, who's a big recruit. You bring in some of these young guys. Like Kyron Lacey's the veteran, but he may not have a big role. I think he's going to have a bigger role early. And as the season progresses, that role may diminish. I hope I'm wrong because I think he was pretty dependable. He had some drop issues last year. God bless you.
Bless you.
One more? Oh, God bless you. Held that one in. It's
Thank
not
you.
healthy
Yeah.
when you hold it in. But, you know, I think that he's the veteran presence, but there's a chance where, you know, he's going to be pushed for playing time, which is always a good thing. Competition is always a good thing. Again, we're talking preseason football with, like, talking college preseason football is really hard because you don't get to see the preseason games. You don't get to see all these stuff on all the scrimmages. You see a little bit, but not a ton. It's going to really start ramping up here next week. Monday next week on the 21st, that's when you were like, oh boy, football
Is not
here. Now there's going to be a lot of like predictions for the LSU Florida State game. There's going to be some talk. It's going to start ramping up. August 26th is the first game on that Thursday on week 0, which is next Thursday. Right? So, you know, next Monday is when everything's going to start ramping up, right? And so that's exciting. Very exciting. Very exciting.
And if LSU kind of feels there's not that many unknowns, it's just a matter of how good can they be if all the pieces fit.
The unknowns are who's going to step up and take those roles on the defensive side of the football, and it's just the depth pieces and how deep we're going to be, because as you get into the season, you need depth. Because you can't just, like, your starting 11 on both sides, you know, aren't going to be enough. Your top 14 guys on both sides of the football is not going to be enough. You need to have guys that can go in and out and be able to develop some of these young guys and not have to give them this huge role early on. That's how you create, you know, these winning teams year in and year out. So that's the question mark in my mind.
And it feels like LSU has done a good job of that, at least on the offensive and defensive line. You feel like you have depth.
Yes, I agree. I think that was the big thing, right? You knew Brian Kelly coming in was going to create depth on the offensive line. Like, you knew it. He's always done that. He has a history of that. Like, that was going to happen. You knew he was going to go get a bunch of tight ends that could block and play that position from the receiver standpoint. What you didn't know was, okay, how are you going to be able, like, what is your defensive line going to look like? Because you may have some good ones up there in Notre Dame, but it's a little different down here in the Southeastern Conference of, like, trying to put together a front seven that's going to be able to withstand the schedule. And I think he's done a really good job of that. I think he's surrounded himself with a lot of coaches that are really good at that, and they understand what they're looking at and developing talent. And you look at this defensive line and the depth. This is the best and the deepest the defensive line has been in a really, really long time, right? I know 19 they had a bunch of guys, but I don't even know if they're as deep then as they are now. You had the top 5 guys that were really good, but behind them, like, well, they're pretty deep. They're pretty good 19, like defensive line-wise.
Yeah.
So, but you haven't had that. You haven't had a ton of that, right? Ed Orgeron comes in as a head coach and says, oh, we need to get deeper on the defensive line. He has that one good year, and then you feel like you had a mass exodus of guys after that, and you kind of had to rebuild it. It seems like they're going to have this defensive line. They kind of have this system now in place where they're going to continue just to add to it. At least that's what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, you can say what you want about Coach O, but he's always was able to recruit the defensive line. So now you get to marry almost some holdovers from O's recruiting classes with the Brian Kelly offensive line that he's always recruited well. So now that's why it seems like they're so deep, because they are.
He's recruiting the defensive line really well too. Like, he's bringing in a bunch of these guys on the defensive front seven that seem like they're going to make a huge impact early on, right? And
I think being in the Southeastern Conference he's benefiting. Yeah,
being in Louisiana helps too.
He's benefiting from that, right? It's hard to get those guys to go up to Notre Dame and play there. I think it's been
that's a very good point.
A little bit easier sledding to get those kids to either stay here or come to a school like this.
That's a very good point, because when Brian Kelly got here, everybody was going to be like, oh, well, or everybody said, well, is Brian Kelly going to know how to recruit to the SEC? Like, is he going to be able to recruit the right type of players at LSU to compete in the SEC, or is he going to think, oh, the players I recruited at Notre Dame are going to suffice here? And my argument was, he is a really good coach. He's a really good evaluator of talent, and he understands where he is at. So in my mind, if he's going to go and look at these players, he's going to see who's very good. He's going to evaluate the talent and say, okay, this guy is obviously more talented than this guy. I now can get that guy because I'm in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and he will come here, as opposed to being in Notre Dame. I didn't think that I was going to be able to get that guy to come to Notre Dame. So I'm going to put my efforts onto these other 4-star guys who may not be as good, but they're going to be good enough to come to Notre Dame and be solid. And so that was my argument, was he's a good evaluator. He's a great coach. So he can evaluate talent. He's going to be able to bring the talent that he needs to bring in to LSU. It wasn't about, oh, these are the guys we thought we needed at Notre Dame. It was the guys that we knew we could get at Notre Dame. And I think that's a huge difference.
I mean, he said it as much when they interviewed with that Jordy with him. He was surprised at not what was in Louisiana, not the talent-wise. He's like, I knew that it was full of talent, but the ability of being able to pull these guys to LSU, how easy it was for him to be able to sell LSU to them. He's like, I didn't know it was going to be this kind of like this easy.
That's different. That's the difference.
Because
I would imagine these like perennially good head coaches, they can evaluate talent. Now, the programs that they are at and physically where these places are sometimes, and sometimes the conference and kind of the competition kind of garners what you're going to actually be able to pull there. So, like, stuff like that,
I mean,
there's a lot that goes into it.
He saw it firsthand whenever he played Alabama in the national championship. Like, we don't have the horses.
No doubt. No doubt. And now
he tapped Notre Dame for all it was worth.
For sure. And now he can get them. Great Monday show today, boys.
You got through it. Stumbled off the gates a little bit. A little foggy brain for everybody, it felt like.
This is coming from the guy that left the studio.
Yeah.
He left the studio for a sandwich. A
that
sandwich
he left in the car that he didn't
that was
order,
safe
already
and
had.
sound. This is coming from that guy. So, you know.
I had to put a bow on it.
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm. Good show.
Great show.
Great show.
Great show. Fletcher was great. We're going to have guests throughout the course of the week. I'm doing good on it. Doing a good job of booking. Look, guys, if anybody wants to help us book, has a lot of connections.
Position is open.
Please help us book, because it's a lot to continue to do it, but we're going to do it. And we're going to have
No,
some
we have
stuff.
to do it. We're definitely going to do it. We got to
do it, obviously. And, we're gonna have some really good – when football games start, we actually can evaluate the games. That's when you're going to start seeing –
I think old Pickle should be a regular. Maybe do him weekly.
Who?
JD. Pickell.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
I think he fit the vibe.
Every Friday.
Yeah.
Probably. Going into the weekend.
Put that on the books, JD.
Huh?
And put that on the books.
Yeah, we'll get him there. We'll talk to him. We'll talk to his scheduler.
Trying to build a little roster.
That's what we need to do. Yeah. That's the name of the game. All right, before we go, though, we got the Seggies. We got the Seggies. Mistake of the day brought to you by our friends down at Doe's Eat Place. One of our good friends of the show, Jerry Foster.
Oh.
Went on a nice little date.
Uh-oh.
On, I believe it was
Friday.
Was it Friday or Saturday? One of the two nights, he took his female companion to Doe's Eat Place. And he ordered a 14-ounce filet, which is a big-ass filet.
Medium rare.
He got some tamales. He said that it was the best steak he's ever had. And we've talked about it a lot on the show. We talked about the lunch, how good the lunch is, how good the burgers are, how good the steaks are. That's a review from somebody who is not part of the show.
Not just that. Speaking of Doe's Eat Place, I'm just remembering this right now. Doe's Eat Place is reaching out now. I go to Dallas this weekend. I go to a gender reveal party on Friday for one of Morgan's high school friends. There is a friend there that I've met before that is in that group of people. He travels often to Baton Rouge. He has to work through Baton Rouge. He's been in this area. He loves Doe's Eat Place.
He loves Doe's because he knows
quality.
It's quality food.
It's quality food.
Great atmosphere. I think that would kill it in Dallas.
It would.
Because here's the deal. You can go to
Everything's bigger in Texas.
Well, you can go to Doe's and you can get a very, very, very high-end style steak that you would get at a high-end steakhouse with a more local, comfortable, very good vibe in that.
You don't feel bad drinking whiskey in the afternoon.
Yeah, you don't feel bad going there. You don't feel like you have to go and get super dressed up. Look, you can do that. There's places to do that. That's no problem. But you feel like you can go and be yourself, relax, chill, but you can also get the quality that you would expect to get from a high-end steakhouse.
Leave it in your car if you want.
What's that?
You can leave it in your car.
You can leave it in your car. I would imagine.
There's going to be leftovers.
I would recommend not doing that. I would probably stink it up. But all this to say, Mistake of the Day is brought to you by Doe's Eat Place. This is your mistake of the day outside of you leaving the show mid-show to go get a sandwich that you did not order. That was
your second mistake of the day.
Yeah, that's going to last them for another 3 days probably.
No doubt. I don't think I've taken a bite of it yet. But mistake of the day, do you want to go on to Franco? Do y'all want to piggyback with me on this? Do we know the whole story? Because it seems a little dicey. Obviously, up-and-coming star for the Tampa Bay Rays.
I know, a little
second
bit.
year?
I mean, he's made it there. He was an all-star this year. So
yeah. So he was. I think it's his second or third year. Maybe second. For
Definitely
sure.
his second full season, I think.
Yeah, in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
So this is where the story gets a little interesting. Allegedly, he's taking a leave of absence with the team.
No, that's not alleged.
That's not
That's
alleged.
happening.
That's happening.
that's happening.
That's not he's taking. He's forced.
He's on the
He's on the restricted list.
He had
He's
a
on the
day off
restricted
today.
list.
He's on the restricted list.
Oh.
Means that this isn't his decision. This is coming from the
like
team.
they put him on the list that he's on the restricted list, which means nobody can't.
like
Nobody
the
can pick him
commissioner's
up and he
list?
can't play until he gets off of that list.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Go ahead, finish.
He is on the list.
What's that?
It's the problem.
No, they're sending him to timeout. This is where they're sending him until
Finish.
he can't be on anybody's field right now. Go ahead.
Finish.
I know what Jack's doing.
I
over
know he
there.
is. I know what he's doing. Keep going.
So, Wander Franco in trouble on the restricted list for allegedly having relations with a 14-year-old. But what I find interesting is that the 14-year-old said she was 18, which I guess that can happen. Dicey situation he's put himself in. But what really is the kicker is the mother approved of the relationship, and that's why he thought she was 18 because that's what she said. She told him she was 18. He gets in with the mother who says, yes, I consent to this relationship. And so he's none the wiser, obviously. I would imagine that I don't think that he really put himself in this position or wanted to be here. But if you're him and the mother says you could date my daughter, wouldn't that be a red flag if that was when you would find out that she's 14, right?
If the mother should say it's 14.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get that.
So I get where he's in a little bit of a pickle, but
Boy, I tell you what.
Here's the thing.
Between
It is
14
a tough
and 18,
spot.
14 and 18
It's a
that's
huge
big gap,
difference.
and there's a lot of development between those 4 years, right? Like you can usually tell when someone's 14 when someone's 18.
yeah, I would say so.
So, all right.
I don't know.
If
Me
she's
either.
14, I just gotta imagine somewhere in the relationship there's been conversation and or reference to friends to where something had to have gone in your mind and be like, man,
I don't want to watch the Disney Channel. Like we got different
man,
tastes.
something just doesn't seem right about this 18-year-old girl and or group of girls. Something had to.
Yeah.
So just something had. So like to me, it's just it's very look. I'm not saying it's very hard for me to believe that he didn't know. I'll just put it that way, and that's where it gets real.
You
dicey
know what?
For me.
And we'll find out when the investigation concludes and there's stuff that happens, but it is not a good look for anybody in this situation. It's not a good look for. There's a lot of stuff happening. It's not good.
Wander down the path. And I guess
not
it might.
He's been waiting to say that. He wanted to
That's
say
not good.
Yeah.
That is the mistake of the day, and it is a very somber and disturbing
precarious situation.
Mistake of the day, but nonetheless, it's a big mistake. It's a big
It
mistake.
Huge mistake.
Yes.
It'd be even more of a mistake to keep talking about it. Too.
Yes.
Yeah. And
We're
the
gonna
other
move
mistake
on.
of the day is
give me
obviously
another one.
very tragic situation in Hawaii with the fires that were happening. Some influencer decided to go back to her house that burned down and go find her Rolex and decided that would be smart to post on the internet while people are looking for like family and friends.
they
She's
find
like,
it?
yeah, she found it.
And she was mad that it was her.
No, she was thrilled to find it. Everybody's like, well, I lost my sister or my dog. She's like, my Rolex.
People have a
No
little
feel.
bit of a little insensitive to some things and just have no feel. Savvy sold separately.
Yes.
Savvy sold separately.
Yep.
Maybe that should be another segment. Savvy
could be.
sold separately.
Speaking of a
all right,
Rolex.
curtain call, huh? What?
I said you're looking down the barrel of a Rolex soon.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
I got some work to do if you need. With that said, our curtain call is brought to you by our friends at Assured Partners. For all your commercial insurance needs, call us
At
Assured Partners. We are very innovative and creative in some of the stuff that we do. And we're very educated in the market, the insurance market.
There it is.
We have alternative in markets that we can help with. But curtain call is brought to you by Assured Partners. Let's go around.
another round.
My curtain call is going to be a very off sports,
Love that.
very feel good, very brings you back to being a kid feel type of thing. Honestly,
I just pulled it
I
up.
don't even know who the kid is. It is a clip that just is surfacing, kind of going a little viral right now on the internet. But please pull this up. This is a baby eating a kiwi for the first time.
Ooh.
Oh,
Oh, no, buddy. But wait a second.
Hold on. Let the sensory
Now,
hit.
wait up. Hold up now.
Oh.
Wait, I think I kind of like it.
Wait up now. Let me get on that.
Let me feel it. Okay.
Wait up.
Okay.
That came
I'm
in
into
good.
it
The
now.
back end.
You see?
Oh, no. It hit me. But hold up. It got good again.
He's like, man, it's so good, but it's
a little harsh when it hits
good.
me, but when I get a couple bites in, I like that.
Oh.
Come back. Come on back.
But it's just the longer I keep it in my mouth, the better it tastes, and the sourness goes away, and it's just hard to get it there. But look,
I've never had a kiwi.
he's gonna learn and eventually like the kiwis.
He's gonna love it from start to finish.
He's not gonna be the guy that's gonna be.
He's into it now.
He bought that. He went for that one.
Yeah.
He went for that last.
Curtain call his mom. His mom
I like
obviously has seen this. She knew what was gonna happen. I like
and
it.
that is it's a good curtain call after what we just had to talk about.
Yeah, of course.
No doubt.
Good curtain call for this time of the year.
That makes
too.
everybody feel good.
Not much else circulating, but rumors and camp rumors. So,
Absolutely.
There you go.
Lloyd?
Curtain call to friend of the show. We talked about it a little bit before the show. Barstool Sports wrote about Eileen, who has been on the show. She gets her star turn on Barstool Sports. As
Eileen's been in the social media lately.
She is making the rounds.
She is.
So curtain call for her career and everything
We'll have
that's
to have
happened.
Eileen on talk about
a little Bucks talk.
Yeah.
That's
Whenever
what they
the
said.
Saints go play the Bucks.
Barstool decided that the Saints lost the offseason by losing Eileen to the Buccaneers. So curtain call to her for her career, and always good to be in the news.
Always good to be in the news. My curtain call, we did not talk about it in the Heineken headlines, and I did that by
on purpose?
Yep. Because it was my curtain call. And I know we've given them a lot of curtain calls, throughout the course of his career. But this one is worth talking about again, right? My curtain call goes to DC3, Dylan Cruz. He was named Carolina League Player of the Week today. If you have not been paying attention to what he's been doing, last week in 6 games, he had 414 with a 793 slugging, 5 extra base hits. I think it was 3 or 4 home runs last week. 2 in 1 game with a grand slam. My man is
doing it.
And seems like he's going to be in AA at some point this year. He's going to end the season there, and it looks like he is on the fast track to be in the big leagues by next year. So shout out to DC3. He's still doing it and doing it better than ever. And
he is in fuego.
Yes,
right
he
now.
is. Curtain call to
making
him.
it look easy.
Great show today, boys. We went all the way to 8 o'clock. I think that was the first time I've been at 8 o'clock at the new studio. We love that. We could not do it without all of our sponsors. We couldn't do it without all of you. We will be back again live in studio from 6 to 8 p.m. here Wednesday. And live again this Friday from 1 to 3. Again, the Friday show is open to the public. Why we're doing that?
No.
That's next week.
Next
we're going
Friday.
on the
Okay,
show.
yeah. I've been going through
talking
the
about
days.
Weekend Brain. That's you.
Yeah.
So
Every day.
Friday we'll be live in studio from 1 to 3 p.m. this week. It's open to the public. Come and shop here at Cards and Culture. We love being here. It's a great situation that we have. It's always good to be in business and do really fun things with your friends, and that's what we're doing here with Anthony at Cards and Culture. And they have a great product, and we're hopefully continue to bring them, really good content coming out of here. Again, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That thumbs up button really helps us out a lot. If you can't watch us and you love listening to us, we're anywhere you get your pods. And anybody else have anything else to say? Anything? You got anything you want to tell the
Land Rover
crowd?
Peretti, baby. Helping the show out.
There you go. We appreciate all of our sponsors, especially our newest sponsor and Land Rover Peretti in Baton Rouge. Friends of Jared's, who introduced to us, which made us friends of us. They are friends of the show. There's a lot of really cool things that they do at that dealership. Yeah. They love LSU. They love sports. And, they had a bunch of really cool tailgates for baseball. I'd imagine they're going to be doing a lot of the similar stuff for football. Difference is you can't really advertise outside, so they're not going to see the tents. But we'll tell you where it's at when we find out.
Yeah. Well involved with the community. Great people. They do a great job over there. If you get a chance, get on down there. Go check them out. You might like what you see. You might like what you have a opportunity to leave there with. Just
great products. Give them a shot.
Peretti
Land Rover on Airline Highway. What?
Nothing like the new car smell.
New car smell. Love the new car smell. All right. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. We will be live again Wednesday from 6 to 8 p.m. We'll have a recap of the episode 2 of Hard Knocks.
Yeah. Need your account.
Change my password just because you said it.
Did you?
Actually, that was not my password.
It wasn't?
No, not for that.
I was about to guess, too. I was going to just log in and just...
We love
kick you out
y'all.
the
We'll see y'all
account.
again on
Fire 'em
Wednesday.
off and next thing he's locked out.
Great show. Peace.
See ya.
See you.